Chapter 1: Hawthorne Group Tower, Top Floor CEO's Office. Dressed in a sharp business suit, Willow Ainsworth stood across from Ethan Hawthorne, holding an iPad to report the last item on his schedule for the day. At 6 p.m., you have a dinner engagement with Mr. Davies of Sterling Corp. After she finished, the man in the black suit before her didn't even look up. Willow hesitated, but finally spoke. "Today is Valentine's Day. Can you come back to the villa tonight?" Ethan Hawthorne slowly raised his head. His refined, handsome face met Willow's eyes. His own were dark and devoid of emotion as he spoke. "Are you using company time to ask me a personal question?" At the sight of his icy gaze, Willow lowered her head as if she'd done something wrong. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I'll take my leave now." She turned and hurried away, the man behind her saying nothing more. Back in the executive office suite, two other secretaries saw her and began their usual passive-aggressive taunts. A country bumpkin with nothing but a high school diploma. Struck gold 3 years ago getting a job at Hawthorne Group, and now she thinks she's entitled to more? What kind of gold? It's just because she has a face that looks like Mr. Hawthorne's first love. The only reason he gives her the time of day is because of that face. You think he's interested in her. Look at her, fawning over him like a lapdog for 3 years. Has he ever given her any official title? Well, some people's good times are about to end. I just saw on the news that Stella Vance is back in the country. The airport was an absolute mob scene. Even Mr. Hawthorne seemed distracted when he heard the news this afternoon. He was actually late for a meeting. Looks like someone's Cinderella fantasy is about to shatter. Miss Vance is an international pianist. What is this yokel going to do? If she wants to cling to Mr. Hawthorne, she should take a good look in the mirror and see if she's even worthy. The staff in the executive office had always looked down on Willow, frequently insulting her. She was used to it, but this time, hearing the content of their insults, her heart clenched and her breathing slowed. Stella Vance, Ethan's first love. She was back. 3 years ago, to pursue her career, Stella had rejected Ethan's marriage proposal and left for Europe to advance her studies. A man as proud as Ethan had been devastated, drinking himself into a stupor for 3 days and nights. He had deleted all of Stella's contact information and announced to their entire circle that they were finished for good. And it was at that moment that she had entered Ethan's life. The others weren't wrong. She had taken advantage of his vulnerability, staying by his side without a title for 3 years, hoping that one day he would finally evict the woman from his heart and let her move in. But now, the person who had once turned his world upside down had returned. What would he do, and what would become of them? Willow didn't listen any further. She placed the documents on an outer desk and left, her face pale. That afternoon, she accompanied Ethan to the dinner with Mr. Davies. The moment she stepped into the private dining room, her eyes fixed on one spot, and she felt her entire body go rigid. Stella Vance, she was here too. It suddenly occurred to Willow that Ethan's schedule had been packed today, yet he had canceled numerous appointments to attend this specific dinner. Was it a coincidence, or had he known all along that Stella would be here? A wave of bitterness washed over her. Before she could react, Stella had already looked in their direction. It was clear she was here as someone's guest. After 3 years of studying abroad, Stella had become a pianist of some renown. Now back home, it seemed she was looking to expand her public profile. Willow instinctively glanced at Ethan. He had obviously seen Stella too, but he only paused for a moment before taking a seat far from where she was. It was a typical business dinner, and the atmosphere quickly became lively. Willow skillfully served Ethan, and the CEO of another company couldn't resist a playful jab. "We all know Mr. Hawthorne has a beauty by his side. Assistant Ainsworth is indeed very considerate." It wasn't the first time she'd heard such teasing about their relationship, and Ethan usually ignored it. But today, he suddenly responded. Willow has indeed always done a great job. Chapter 2. Hearing this, Willow froze, turning to look at him in disbelief. A flicker of joy sparked in her heart. In the 3 years she had been by his side, this was the first time she had ever heard him acknowledge her. But in the next second, her heart plummeted back to earth. Even though Ethan hid it well, as she turned her head, she saw that as he spoke, his gaze was fixed on another corner of the room, where Stella Vance was sitting. Halfway through the dinner, Ethan stood up and went to the restroom, and he didn't return for a long time. Feeling uneasy, Willow went out to look for him, finding the two of them in a struggle in the hallway outside the restrooms. Stella was a little drunk, clinging to Ethan and refusing to let go. "Ethan, you still love me, don't you?" "No. Impossible." Stella's voice was choked with a sob. "If you really didn't love me, why would you keep someone who looks so much like me by your side? If you didn't love me, why did you come to this dinner tonight? I know you're still angry with me, right?" "I was wrong, I'm back now. Can we start over?" "Ethan, Ethan," she called his name over and over. Ethan grabbed Stella's flailing hands. His expression was still cold, but his breathing had become ragged. Suppressing the turmoil in her heart, Willow quickly walked over. "Mr. Hawthorne, let me help Miss Vance." After the three returned to the private room, the dinner soon moved to the toasting phase. This was a major reason Willow accompanied Ethan to these events. He had a sensitive stomach and needed her to drink on his behalf. After downing several glasses in a row, she could feel her stomach churning uncomfortably. After 3 years of drinking for him, her body wasn't made of iron, and her stomach had long since become fragile. But to protect Ethan, she pushed through the pain. Just then, a lecherous voice came from another corner. A drunk, bald, and greasy-looking man sat down next to Stella with a glass of wine. "Would Miss Vance do me the honor of having a drink with me?" Stella's expression was strained. "I'm sorry, I don't drink." "Not drinking means you're disrespecting me?" The sleazeball persisted, his eyes practically glued to her. The room was large and crowded, and not particularly quiet, so many people didn't notice. But Willow keenly sensed the atmosphere around Ethan grow heavy. He had definitely noticed. At that moment, the greasy man's patience clearly ran out. He slammed his glass on the table with a loud bang. "Who are you trying to fool? You can't even have a drink?" Ethan finally spoke, but his gaze fell on Willow. "Willow," he said flatly, "go and toast Mr. Sterling." A sharp pain pierced Willow's heart. He didn't want to see Stella being harassed, so he was pushing her out to solve the problem. She clenched her left fist, picked up a glass of wine, and forced herself to walk over to Mr. Sterling. "Mr. Sterling, please don't make things difficult for Miss Vance. I'll drink with you." Seeing that Willow was also a beautiful woman, the man's expression softened slightly, and he began to get handsy with her. She couldn't even manage a smile, enduring the humiliation before returning to Ethan's side. Ethan sat for a few more minutes, then stood up and left the room without a word. Clutching her aching stomach, Willow chased after him. Ethan stood at the hotel entrance, his tall, straight back radiating a chilling aura. "Tomorrow," he said coldly into his phone, "terminate all cooperation with Shengyuan." Shengyuan was the company of Mr. Sterling, the man who had harassed Stella. With that, Ethan strode away, not giving Willow a second glance. Tears welled in her eyes. She knew that in his current state of anger, Ethan wouldn't care about her. She had no choice but to endure the stomach pain and walk out on her own. But this was a private estate, very remote, and it was difficult to hail a cab. Willow's face was ashen, beads of sweat dripping from her forehead. She took out the stomach medicine from her pocket, swallowed a pill dry, and began walking down the dark, winding road down the mountain. Just then, a Maybach emerged from the darkness and pulled up beside her. Several men in black suits got out, and the one in the lead walked directly up to her. "Miss, please get in the car. We'll take you home." Willow looked up, startled. It was one of her eldest brother's men. She then remembered that the Ainsworth family had shares in this private estate, so seeing their people here wasn't entirely surprising. She forced herself to stand tall despite the pain. "Didn't I tell you to stay out of my sight? But if we let you walk down the mountain, Chairman Ainsworth will. He would probably kill them. Miss, I'm begging you, please get in the car." The pain was becoming unbearable. Willow finally relented and got in. Otherwise, she feared she might pass out on this mountain road with no one to find her. "Miss," the man in black began, "Chairman Ainsworth misses you very much. There's only 1 month left of the 3-year agreement. He didn't finish, but Willow knew what he was going to say. The Ainsworth family was wealthy beyond measure. Her father was a tycoon, and her 7 older brothers were all titans in their respective fields. And she was the Ainsworth family's most beloved youngest daughter. 3 years ago, she had fallen for Ethan Hawthorne at first sight. Against the wishes of her father and brothers, she had cast everything aside, hidden her identity as a wealthy heiress, and come to Ethan's side. She had made a bet. that within 3 years she could make him fall in love with her on her own merits. If not, she would obediently return home to her brothers. Now, the 3 years were almost up. Only 1 month remained. Leaning against the car window, Willow drifted off, murmuring to herself, "Ethan, how much longer will it take for you to love me?" Chapter 3. The next day was the weekend. Waking up with a hangover and a dizzy head, Willow went straight to the Hawthorne estate. For the past 3 years, in an effort to please Ethan's family, she had visited the Hawthorne home every few days. Although Eleanor Hawthorne disliked her, her health was poor, and Willow happened to be skilled at making medicinal porridge. So, Eleanor treated her like a free nanny. But as soon as she walked in, she saw Eleanor, who was usually cold and disdainful towards her, now chatting enthusiastically with another woman who was almost unfairly beautiful. It was Stella Vance she had come to the Hawthorne home. Did Ethan know? Seeing Willow standing there dumbfounded, Eleanor rolled her eyes in annoyance. "What are you staring at? Go do what you're supposed to do." Willow silently lowered her head and walked into the kitchen. Half an hour later, she emerged. "Mrs. Hawthorne, the porridge is ready. Please be careful, it's hot." Willow bowed slightly as she offered the porcelain bowl. Eleanor glanced at her impatiently. "It takes you this long to make a simple porridge." She took the bowl, and after one taste, her expression soured. She spat out the porridge and violently hurled the bowl at Willow. Willow instinctively raised her arm to block it, and the scalding porridge splashed all over her forearm, turning the skin bright red. "Willow Ainsworth, you did that on purpose, didn't you? Are you trying to burn me to death?" "Mrs. Hawthorne, I didn't." Her arm throbbed with excruciating pain. Fighting back tears, she tried to explain, "I warned you to be careful, that it was hot." "How dare you talk back your nothing but gutter trash? After 3 years with Ethan, you still have no manners," Eleanor raged. Whether from the pain or the humiliation, tears finally fell from her eyes. She looked down and whispered, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Hawthorne. I didn't mean to." Stella stepped in to soothe Eleanor. "It's all right, Mrs. Hawthorne. Don't let it affect your health." Perhaps the large, angry red burn on Willow's arm was too shocking. Eleanor waved her hand dismissively. "Fine, fine. Clara, take her upstairs to change." "Thank you, Mrs. Hawthorne," Willow said, biting her lip, and followed the housekeeper, Clara, upstairs. When she came back down in fresh clothes, she saw that Ethan, who hadn't been home earlier, had returned and was standing face to face with Stella. Stella's eyes were red as she spoke. "Ethan, I just came to see Mrs. Hawthorne." Ethan avoided her gaze, walked over to Willow and grabbed her arm. "Then you can leave now," he said coldly. Beneath the sleeve, his strong grip squeezed her swollen, burned arm. The pain was so intense Willow felt like her bones were about to break, but she gritted her teeth and made no sound. Seeing the seemingly intimate gesture between them, Stella's eyes filled with tears. She turned and rushed out of the house. The moment she was outside, however, she wiped her tears away and made a phone call. "I can't wait any longer. Find a way to get me back with Ethan immediately. Otherwise, you can forget about that $5 million. After that day, Stella didn't return to the Hawthorne house. Even Willow, who was usually a frequent visitor, stayed away for several days until her arm healed. Then, a package arrived from Ethan, an expensive gown. A concert. The assistant who delivered the dress looked at her with disdain. "Yes, the CEO said you are to accompany him to a concert tomorrow." Looking at the white evening gown, Willow couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Only when she arrived did she realize they were attending Stella Vance's first concert since her return. All the joy she had felt instantly vanished. The private concert was more like a music salon. The stage was in the center, with no formal seating, and a buffet table was laden with exquisite French pastries. After Stella made her entrance, Ethan turned, picked up a piece of cake, and, somewhat clumsily, scooped a small bite with a fork and held it to Willow's lips. He felt her hesitate for a few seconds, but in the end, she obediently ate the cake. Her hand holding his arm tightened slightly. "Thank you," Ethan just grunted an indifferent On stage, Stella began to play the piano. Everyone was engrossed in the beautiful music, except for Willow, who was panting, her face flushed. As for Ethan, when he recognized the piece Stella was playing, he seemed to freeze. At that moment, Stella slowly turned her head from the stage, her eyes meeting his. She was playing the song she had written for him after they broke up. She had sworn she would never play it again. Yet here she was, making it the first piece she played upon her return, and right in front of him. Ethan's resolve began to crumble. He almost forgot his only purpose in coming was to use Willow to provoke Stella. When the piece ended, the hall erupted in thunderous applause. Only Ethan remained frozen in place. Stella stood up, her gaze fixed directly on him. "This piece is dedicated to the greatest love of my life. I once chose my career over him, not because I was giving up on him, but because I wanted to become a better person to stand by his side. But if I had to choose again, I would give up everything just to have him." Ethan wanted to look away, but in the next second, everyone watched as Stella suddenly went limp, her body slumping backward. At that same moment, Willow could no longer bear it. Her hand trembled as she clutched Ethan's arm. "Ethan, I feel so sick," but the man beside her acted as if he hadn't heard a word. He instantly shook her hand off and ran towards the stage, his face etched with panic. Stella, Chapter 4. Willow was allergic to cream. She couldn't eat cake. After Ethan shoved her to the floor, she struggled to breathe, watching as that familiar figure carried Stella away. The man, who was always composed now, had a look of such intense panic on his face, and from beginning to end, he never once looked back at her. Willow's vision blurred until, finally, she lost consciousness. She was discovered by a waiter, who called an ambulance to take her to the hospital. Her allergic reaction was severe, and she had to stay in the hospital for a full week. And for that entire week, Ethan never came to see her once. After 3 years together, not only did he not remember her cream allergy, but even when she was on the verge of death, she was worth less to him than a single one of Stella's fingers. Walking in a daze, Willow subconsciously made her way to the Hawthorne residence. When she entered, she saw Ethan feeding medicine to Stella. Stella's public confession and subsequent fainting spell had completely won back Ethan's heart. Willow stood at the doorway, watching Stella lean against his chest, cooing, "Ethan, I don't like your assistant. Can you fire her, please?" Ethan's expression was neutral. "She's a competent worker. But she looks so much like me, and with your past, it makes me uncomfortable." After speaking, she coughed weakly, her face pale. Hearing this, Ethan's heart softened. "She's just a substitute. If you're uncomfortable, then she's fired." Standing in the doorway, Willow felt utterly ridiculous. For 3 years, she had acted like a madwoman, giving up everything to be by his side, only to be dismissed with, "She's just a substitute. If you're uncomfortable, then she's fired." Tears streamed down her face. It was a leaner Hawthorne who noticed her first. Seeing her at the door, she rushed over and shoved her. "What are you doing here? I'm warning you, Stella is back. Stop clinging to Ethan." She had always despised this poor, powerless country bumpkin, terrified that Ethan might one day actually marry her. The push sent Willow stumbling, and she fell hard to the ground. Ethan frowned, walked over, and helped her up. He casually pulled a check from his pocket. "You're just in time. Here's $3 million. Consider it compensation for your 3 years of service. Go pack your things. Don't come to Hawthorne Group tomorrow, and don't go back to the villa." A faint smile flickered in Stella's eyes at the sight, but she spoke with a gentle tone. "Miss Ainsworth, you should take it. Ethan and I were just being stubborn with each other all these years, and you were unintentionally caught in the middle. You've been with him for so long, and I hear your family isn't well off. This money should be enough for you to escape your current life of poverty." The man's intention to cut ties with her was painfully obvious, as if he feared she would cling to him. She looked at the check and let out a laugh, bleak and powerless. Why does it have to be her? He hadn't expected such a question. Ethan's brow furrowed, but seeing her defiant posture, he answered coldly, 7 years ago at the piano gala, her rendition of Crimson Misfortune. It was love at first sight. He had always been a lover of piano music. That day, standing at a distance, he had heard the notes flow from her fingertips through a translucent screen. His heart was captured in an instant. It wasn't that he hadn't tried to forget her over the years, but he couldn't. Willow never imagined this would be the reason. 7 years ago, she had also played Crimson Misfortune. 7 years ago, she had also, just as she was about to speak, a flash of panic crossed Stella's eyes. She interrupted, "Ethan, my head hurts so much. I need to rest. Please make Miss Ainsworth leave." At her words, a flicker of concern crossed Ethan's face. He tossed the check at Willow and prepared to show her out, but Willow showed no intention of leaving. With red-rimmed eyes, she said, Ethan Hawthorne, you strung me along for 3 years, using me when you needed me and kicking me aside when you didn't. Do you really think $3 million can compensate me for that?" As she spoke, her eyes filled with tears. Eleanor erupted in fury. "After 3 years of acting, you finally show your true colors for someone of your station. $3 million is too much. How much do you think you're worth? Take it and get out." Ethan raised a hand to stop his mother. "Then how much do you want?" he asked coolly. Willow fought back the searing pain in her heart and said, word by word, 100 billion. At that number, even Ethan's eyes filled with scorn, as if mocking her wild fantasy. But in that instant, it was as if all the strength drained from her. She tore the check to pieces, threw them at Ethan, tears streaming down her face. "You can't afford it, can you? Then what right do you have to tell me to leave?" "Ethan Hawthorne, I owe you nothing. You got used to me treating you well all these years. Remember this, it's not you telling me to pack my things and leave. It's me who doesn't want you anymore. It's me who is dumping you." With that, ignoring Ethan's ashen face, she turned and left, her eyes burning with tears. She had lost. These past 3 years, she had lost completely. Giving up $1 billion inheritance, giving up the adoration of her brothers, all for an end like this. Reaching the road outside the estate, she squatted on the ground, sobbing as she pulled out her phone and dialed a familiar number. "Alistair, I was wrong. I want to come home." Hearing his little sister's heartbroken cries, Alistair Ainsworth's face turned grim on the other end of the line. Yet, as if he had long anticipated this outcome, his deep voice was a beacon of reassurance. "It's okay, Willow. I'm coming to bring you home." After hanging up, he immediately opened his phone and sent a message to the Princess Protection Protocol group chat. "Willow's been hurt. Come with me to pick her up." The group chat exploded. "Second brother. They dare bully Willow? They're courting death. Third brother. They dare bully Willow? They're courting death. Fourth brother. They dare bully Willow? They're courting death. Fifth brother. They dare bully Willow? They're courting death. Sixth brother. They dare bully Willow. They're courting death. Seventh brother. They dare bully Willow. They're courting death." Putting down their phones, the 7 men set out from different locations. 7 top-of-the-line luxury cars converging on a single destination. In less than half an hour, a convoy of supercars appeared at the end of the street, pulling up smoothly beside Willow. From the cars emerged 7 men, each with a striking presence, their demeanors ranging from profound to devilishly charming. Chapter 5, a fresh wave of emotion stung Willow's nose, and she threw herself into her brother's arms. Her third brother, Julian, gently stroked her soft hair. There, no more crying. Let's get you in the car and go home first." Willow finally looked up, her eyes still red, and followed her brothers into the largest vehicle, a stretched Lincoln limousine. Inside the car, looking at her brothers' worried faces, she felt a profound regret for her reckless willfulness over the past 3 years. If it weren't for Ethan Hawthorne, she would still be the most celebrated little princess in the capital. Her eldest brother, Alistair Ainsworth, was the chairman of the family's Celestial Holdings, a commanding figure whose word was law in the capital. Her second brother, Brendan Ainsworth, had graduated from MIT at 16 and founded a tech company that was now a Fortune 500 giant. Her third brother, Julian Ainsworth, was a globally famous, 3-time Oscar-winning actor. Her fourth brother, Adrian Ainsworth, was a genius artist whose paintings sold for astronomical prices. Her fifth brother, Felix Ainsworth, was the youngest trading prodigy on Wall Street. Her sixth brother, Nathaniel Ainsworth, was a renowned and undefeated lawyer. Her seventh brother, Finian Ainsworth, was an ace pilot for a major airline. With 7 such outstanding brothers, Willow had grown up showered with love, never having known a moment of hardship. But in the 3 years she had loved Ethan Hawthorne, it seemed she had endured a lifetime's worth of grievances. The thought of him brought fresh tears to her eyes. Alistair, always the most composed of the brothers, saw his sister's pitiful state, and his face grew terrifyingly dark. "Willow, what exactly happened?" Alistair asked. Willow knew they wouldn't let it go until she told them, so she recounted the events of the past 3 years. As expected, all 7 of them were enraged, looking ready to stop the car and go back to destroy Ethan Hawthorne on the spot. While the Hawthorne family was well known in the capital, what were they compared to the Ainsworths? How dare Ethan Hawthorne treat the Ainsworth family's treasure this way? It was Willow who desperately held them back, especially clinging to her most impulsive brother, Finian. "Brothers, I don't want to go back to him anymore." Hearing her say this, their explosive anger suddenly subsided. Willow closed her eyes, tear tracks still staining her face. "What happened in the past was my own one-sided wish. I can't blame anyone else. I've come to terms with it now. From now on, I won't do anything foolish for Ethan Hawthorne again." Seeing that she had truly thought it through, the brothers calmed down. Finian hugged Willow tightly. "That's right. What's so great about that Hawthorne guy? I'll find you someone better." His tone was always a bit roguish, which made Willow laugh through her tears, and the tense atmosphere in the car finally eased. Her second brother, Brendan, asked, "So, Willow, what are your plans for the future?" Willow immediately glanced at her first and second brothers. Growing up, these two had always been the most protective of her. Not wanting to upset them again, she quickly replied, "I'll listen to whatever Alistair and Brendan say." At this, Alistair finally spoke. "You said that Stella Vance is also a pianist?" Willow nodded. Alistair's deep eyes held a hint of irony. "Willow, you studied under the great piano master Madame Dubois and performed with her at a concert when you were 12. Do you still want to hold concerts?" Willow was stunned. That's right. Her skill at the piano was exceptionally high, far surpassing Stella's. It was just that these years of being Ethan's free nanny and assistant had made her almost forget that she, too, once had a time when she shone so brightly. Since she had decided to find her old self again, why not start by playing the piano once more? With that thought, Willow nodded firmly. "I want to, brother." Receiving her determined answer, Alistair nodded. He would arrange it. Just because Willow was willing to let the past go didn't mean he was. He would make Ethan Hawthorne realize just how exceptional the person he had missed out on truly was. Chapter 6. After returning to the Ainsworth estate, Willow rested for a few days. Occasionally, memories of the past would surface, but whenever she started to feel down, her sixth and seventh brothers would be there to play with her and cheer her up. Soon, she found herself thinking of Ethan Hawthorne less and less. Ethan, on the other hand, found his work suddenly descending into chaos. In the executive office, the other secretaries stood trembling before him. The representative from Apex Audio was here yesterday. He said no one received him and left without even discussing the partnership. "How do you people do your jobs?" Mr. Hawthorne was always strict. A secretary stammered. That was always handled by Willow. "You can't do your jobs without her." "What am I paying you for?" "We're sorry, Mr. Hawthorne." The mere mention of Willow's name only deepened Ethan's frustration. He scowled and waved them away. As the last secretary was leaving, he suddenly asked coldly, "And who changed the fragrance in my office?" He had grown accustomed to the old one, and the sudden change was jarring. The secretary had no choice but to answer, "The old fragrance was always prepared by Miss Ainsworth. Since she left, we haven't been able to find the same brand." Willow again. Ethan pressed his temples. "Get out." The office returned to silence. Willow had been gone for a few days, and for the first time, he found himself thinking about her. She had no family or friends in the capital, and with her stubborn pride, she had refused to take a single penny from him. Now that she had left Hawthorne Group, where could she have gone? The friendless and penniless Willow was, in fact, resting on a luxurious bed in the Ainsworth estate, having taken another full week to recover. It wasn't until preparations for her concert were underway that she finally ventured out to pick a new piano for herself. Perhaps it was just bad luck, but the moment she walked into the shop, she saw a familiar figure. She didn't retreat, however, but walked in confidently. Stella, however, wouldn't let her be, her words dripping with sarcasm. "Miss Ainsworth, didn't you say you wouldn't pester Ethan anymore? Did you find out he was coming to pick me up later and deliberately follow me here? It's only been a few days. Are you already going back on your word?" Seeing Stella's self-important expression, Willow let out a cold laugh. Gone was her usual timid demeanor. Instead, she retorted, "Do you own this shop?" Stella frowned, instinctively answering, "No." Willow smiled. "Since you don't, what right do you have to question me? Can't I come here to buy a piano?" Hearing this, Stella's mockery intensified. She looked Willow up and down with disdain. "Miss Ainsworth, Ethan told me you're from the countryside. Do you even know how to play the piano? Besides, this brand is the luxury standard for pianos. A single one costs millions. Can you afford it?" The shop assistants began whispering among themselves, seemingly joining in the ridicule. Stella's smile deepened. Just leave, you're just a wannabe, you'll only make a fool of yourself. A wannabe? Willow laughed. So Stella thought she was here to buy a piano just to copy her. She ignored Stella completely. Just as she was about to pull out her black card to select the piano she had her eye on, her phone rang. It was her fourth brother, Adrian. Willow, come home quickly, I've got a surprise piano for you. Her brother had bought her a piano. Willow put the black card she had taken out back in her wallet, but not before Stella had caught a glimpse of it. The astonishment on Stella's face was unmistakable. There were no more than 10 of those exclusive VIP cards in the entire capital. How could Willow possibly have one? But before she could ask, Willow had already turned and left the piano store. Stella rushed after her, only to see her getting into a luxury car. Chapter 7. Back at the Ainsworth estate, Willow watched as her fourth brother, Adrian, stood mysteriously beside a piano covered with a white cloth. Her curiosity was piqued. Adrian, she pleaded. Hurry up and show me. Adrian had intended to draw out the suspense, but he couldn't resist her pestering and obediently lifted the white cloth. When the pure white grand piano was revealed, Willow saw the ancient, weathered signature on its body, a mark of history, and was utterly stunned. She gently touched the piano. Is this the one Maestro Mask played? Adrian nodded. That's right, I had it specially borrowed from Paris for your concert. What do you think? Do you like it? Deeply moved, Willow threw her arms around her brother, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you, Adrian, silly girl. Willow made a solemn promise. Don't worry, brother. I won't let you down. Willow was already a student of the renowned Madame Dubois. Now, with the reappearance of Maestro Mask's legendary piano, news of the concert spread like wildfire. She wasn't using her own name, but the stage name she used when studying with Madame Dubois, Bella. Tickets for the concert went on sale a week in advance and sold out almost instantly. Coincidentally, Stella Vance's concert tour was also beginning, with the capital as her first stop. Unlike her previous private event, this one was open to the public. By a stroke of fate, both their concerts were scheduled for the same day, at the same art center, just in different halls. The vast majority of music lovers chose to attend Bella's performance, leaving Stella's event embarrassingly empty. The night before the concert, Stella clung to Ethan. Ethan, you'll come tomorrow, won't you? As long as Ethan was there, even if her audience was small, no one would dare laugh at her. Ethan was in his study, working. He had no idea how poorly Stella's tickets had sold or what she was plotting. Stella, I'm very busy these next couple of days. I'm afraid. No, Stella immediately covered his mouth, pouting. Ethan frowned, but ultimately agreed to go. The next day, upon arriving at the concert hall, Ethan noticed that most of the audience was heading towards the Celestial Hall. Assuming that was Stella's venue, he followed them inside. Once inside, he saw a white grand piano on the center stage. As a music lover himself, he instantly recognized it as the piano Maestro Mask had played in the last century. He was shocked. When had Stella acquired such an instrument? The next moment, a figure in a white gown, her upper face concealed by a white feathered mask, glided onto the stage. She bowed gracefully to the audience, her posture elegant and ethereal. The man sitting next to Ethan couldn't help but exclaim, I'd heard Bella was a genius pianist, but she's always been so reclusive. And then she vanished 3 years ago. It's about time she made a comeback. Exactly. Madame Dubois' star pupil. It would have been such a waste if she'd stopped playing. Bella, Madame Dubois? Ethan finally realized he was in the wrong hall. He hesitated for a few seconds, about to get up and leave, but just then the house lights dimmed. The concert was beginning. It was considered poor etiquette to leave a concert midway through. As a man from a distinguished family, Ethan knew this. He rubbed his forehead and settled back into his seat. Since the performer wasn't Stella, he had initially felt a little disinterested. But the moment Bella began to play, he was captivated. Her fingerwork was fluid, the music sonorous and beautiful, like a sound from the heavens that left the audience spellbound. Ethan was completely immersed in the musical world she created, and he even found the sound of the piano strangely familiar. He was indeed familiar with it. There had been a time when he suffered from insomnia, and Willow had given him a music CD, claiming it was specially made to treat sleeplessness. In truth, all the pieces on it had been played by Willow herself. Chapter 8. As the concert drew to a close and Bella finished her final piece, the audience seemed to awaken from a dream. The woman in pure white on stage slowly rose, bowed once more to the audience, and then walked off stage. The crowd slowly dispersed, but Ethan remained in his seat. It wasn't until his phone rang, with Stella crying on the other end, that he suddenly snapped back to reality and left the concert hall. After the concert, Bella's fame skyrocketed, and soon everyone had all but forgotten that the Capitol had another rising star known as the Piano Angel, Stella Vance. Not only had Stella's concert been poorly attended, but Ethan hadn't even shown up. She threw tantrums for days, only reluctantly stopping when she saw Ethan was about to lose his temper. A few days later, to cheer her up, a few of her good friends took her to an art exhibition. "Come on, Stella, this is Adrian Ainsworth's exhibition. Tickets are impossible to get. Cheer up. What's so great about that Bella anyway? She's just riding on her teacher's coattails." Exactly. People are just chasing novelty. With their reassurances, Stella finally started to feel a little better. As they were browsing, Stella's steps faltered. She suddenly saw Willow Ainsworth among the gallery goers. She raised an eyebrow in disgust, feeling that such a common person had no place in such an elegant setting. Could it be that she was copying her again? She snorted and walked over. "Willow Ainsworth, you really are relentless." Willow had been engrossed in admiring her fourth brother's work. Hearing the sarcastic voice, she turned to see a hostile-looking Stella and her friends. "Miss Vance, what a coincidence." Stella sneered. "Coincidence? Are you here pretending to be a lady to hook another rich man?" Willow just smiled. Seeing Stella's contorted expression, she found it rather amusing. "I hear Miss Vance's concert was a great success. My congratulations." Everyone in the Capitol knew that Stella's thunder had been completely stolen by that Bella. For Willow to say this now was clearly to mock her. Just as Stella was about to erupt, a warm yet sharp voice interjected from the side. "Willow, who are these people?" Adrian Ainsworth walked to Willow's side, a protective arm around her. Stella, of course, recognized Adrian. Seeing him act so familiar with Willow, she was stunned. A poor woman from the countryside might be able to latch onto a few rich men with her looks, but how could she possibly know a great artist like Adrian Ainsworth? Willow smiled faintly and shook her head. "I don't know them." Adrian's handsome brow darkened. "If anyone is causing trouble, I'll have security remove them." With that, he affectionately guided Willow away. Back at the Hawthorne residence, Stella gave Ethan an exaggerated account of the incident, implying that Willow had somehow managed to get her claws into even the notoriously aloof Adrian Ainsworth. After hearing her out, Ethan didn't respond immediately. His dark eyes were lost in thought. On his desk lay the music CD Willow had once given him. After hearing Bella's concert, he had finally remembered where he had heard that music before. It was this CD. Identical, but Bella had never officially released any CDs. The only way to have one was if she had recorded it specifically for someone. How could someone of Willow's status have obtained it? And now today, she was acquainted with the great painter Adrian Ainsworth. Ethan stroked his chin. He suddenly realized that he had never truly known this person at all. After Stella left, Ethan picked up his phone and dialed a number, his voice low. "Do a background check for me. On Willow Ainsworth." Chapter 9, the assistant was fast, delivering an answer within the hour. Ethan's dark eyes stared at the CD. "You found nothing?" "That's right, Mr. Hawthorne. It's as if all of Willow Ainsworth's information has been completely wiped. Aside from her name and photo, there's nothing." How was that possible? Was it because she was so ordinary that there was little information to begin with? Or had it been deliberately erased? As Ethan pondered this, he didn't realize how much of his thoughts were now consumed by Willow, a person he had never cared about before. Just then, the assistant's voice on the other end of the line became urgent. "This is bad, Mr. Hawthorne." Ethan's brow twitched, thinking it was about Willow. "What is it?" "We just received news," the assistant said. "Celestial Holdings has abruptly terminated all partnerships with Hawthorne Group and has withdrawn all its investments from several of our subsidiary companies." Ethan shot to his feet, instantly forgetting about Willow. "Did they give a reason?" The assistant replied. "No. It was all a no-reason withdrawal of funds. Celestial Holdings' standing in the Capitol was undisputed. Even a deeply rooted company like Hawthorne Group was severely shaken by this blow. What's more, Many companies in the capital followed Celestial's lead. Seeing them suddenly cut ties with Hawthorne, they instinctively assumed Hawthorne Group was having cash flow problems, and some had already started pulling their own investments. Ethan immediately ordered, "Contact the person in charge at Celestial. We must find out the reason." The assistant sounded distressed. "My secretary said she tried. It took over a dozen calls just to get through, but they said Celestial is busy preparing for their heiress to take over the company and they don't have time for us." The Ainsworth heiress? Ethan's brow furrowed deeply. It was going to be a sleepless night. Meanwhile, at the Ainsworth estate, Willow's 7 brothers had transformed the house into the pink castle she had loved as a child. It was a grand surprise. "Thank you, brothers." Willow was so moved, she hugged Finian and kissed his cheek. She knew this kind of flamboyant gesture had to be his idea. But that one kiss made the other 6 brothers jealous. To be fair, Willow had to give each of her 7 brothers a light, dragonfly-like kiss on the left cheek, which left her blushing with shyness. Just then, her eldest brother spoke up. "Willow, your birthday is in a few months. When I was at the old residence last, Grandpa said he has a gift for you." Willow quickly asked, "What is it?" Her second brother tapped her on the forehead. "Grandpa has decided to have you take over as the CEO of Celestial." What Willow was so shocked that the pink balloon in her hand floated away. "But what about Alistair?" "Silly girl, Alistair is the chairman. Dad handed over full authority to him long ago. Don't worry, Alistair will support you." "I'm afraid I won't do a good job." Alistair took Willow's hand, his usually deep voice tinged with gentleness. "Willow, I believe in you. You are the proudest daughter of the Ainsworth family." Willow was deeply touched. She knew this decision wasn't just her grandfather's. It must have been her brother's, worried that the past 3 years had taken too much of a toll on her, wanting her to regain her confidence. In that case, she couldn't let them down. Willow nodded solemnly. "Okay, I can do it." Only then did Alistair smile, patting her head. "Good girl. Next Wednesday, we'll hold a banquet and officially announce your identity." Chapter 10. On Wednesday, the Ainsworth family booked the most expensive hotel in the capital, located on a small, private island. The scenery was breathtaking, a world unto itself. Although they had severed all ties with Hawthorne Group, an invitation to the banquet was still sent to the Hawthorne family. Ethan had managed to stabilize the situation through sheer force of will over the past few days, but it wasn't a long-term solution. He intended to use this opportunity to get to the bottom of things, so he arrived early at the hotel with his mother, Eleanor, and Stella Vance. As night fell, they changed into formal attire and entered the magnificent ballroom. Eleanor, dressed in a gaudy cheongsam, greedily took in the luxurious surroundings. The Ainsworths were this extravagant for their youngest daughter. She glanced at her tall, handsome son beside her, and an idea began to form. Although she had finally gotten rid of that country bumpkin Willow, and Stella was tolerable compared to the Ainsworth heiress, it was the difference between heaven and earth. Her eyes darted around, and she began to whisper to her son. "Ethan, when Miss Ainsworth makes her appearance later, you need to be on your best behavior." Ethan's brow furrowed in displeasure. "Mother, Stella is right here. Don't talk nonsense." Eleanor shot a glance at Stella. "I'm finding her rather average now." The topic was dropped for the moment. Eleanor had a few drinks with some other wealthy wives, and when she turned around, she was shocked to see Willow Ainsworth. She walked over without a hint of politeness. "Willow Ainsworth, how dare you show up at a place like this to hunt for a rich husband? You're tainting the venue." Willow was speechless. If it weren't for the fact that she was looking for her 7th brother, who had wandered off, she wouldn't have appeared in the ballroom so early. She ignored Eleanor and turned to leave. Eleanor had never been so disrespected. She reached out to grab her, but Willow easily sidestepped her. "Mrs. Hawthorne," she said coldly, "do you really dare to make a scene at an event like this?" Ethan, approaching, heard this, and his face immediately darkened. "Willow Ainsworth, what is that attitude?" His aura was naturally cold and intimidating, and when he intentionally projected it, it was even more terrifying. But now, Willow was completely unafraid of him. "Mr. Hawthorne, control your mother." Just then, Stella walked over and said gently, "Willow, how can you be so rude to Mrs. Hawthorne?" Willow sneered, feeling that talking to this family was a waste of time. She turned to leave again. This Willow was so unfamiliar. recalling what Stella had told him, and thinking that she was likely here to latch onto some other wealthy man, an inexplicable anger flared up in Ethan's heart. Her work ethic was undeniable. In her absence, the executive office had become a complete mess. If she were willing to behave, it wouldn't be out of the question to let her return to Hawthorne Group. That way, she wouldn't have to sell herself or cling to other men. With this thought, he grabbed her arm and started to pull her away. Suddenly, the lights in the venue dimmed. At that moment, Alastair Ainsworth walked onto the stage, pushing the wheelchair of the Ainsworth family patriarch, Theodore Ainsworth. The old man was nearly 80 but still full of vigor. In his youth, he had been a titan of the business world, leaving behind countless legends. He had been retired for nearly a decade, but now he was making an appearance for his youngest granddaughter, a testament to how much he doted on her. The host handed Theodore a microphone, and a voice, though aged, still full of authority, echoed through the ballroom. "Today, I have gathered you all here to formally introduce my youngest granddaughter as the new CEO of Celestial Holdings. In the future, I believe that under her leadership, Celestial will become even greater than it is today." A wave of excited chatter swept through the room, appointed CEO directly. This Ainsworth heiress, who had never appeared in public before, was this highly valued by the family? Next, the microphone was passed to Alastair. "And now, I would like to introduce to you all the apple of our family's eye, Willow Ainsworth." A spotlight shot down. The entire room held its breath, watching as Willow, bathed in the beam of light, coldly shook off Ethan Hawthorne's hand and gave a slow smile to the men on stage. She was wearing a stunning gold gown that shimmered under the lights, accentuating her unparalleled beauty. With the sway of her dress, she gracefully walked to the center of the ballroom. "Hello, everyone. I am the youngest daughter of the Ainsworth family and the future CEO of Celestial Holdings, Willow Ainsworth." Chapter 11. As Willow's words faded, the entire hall erupted in thunderous applause. Her eldest brother, Alastair, and her grandfather, Theodore, stood on the stage, smiling warmly at Willow as they led the ovation. Within the entire venue, only Ethan, his mother, and Stella remained frozen in place, not clapping. Eleanor was the first to react. She looked at Ethan in utter shock. "Ethan, is that woman on stage really the Willow we know? She's the Ainsworth's youngest daughter, the most powerful Ainsworth family in the capital?" Ethan's face was also a mask of astonishment. The woman who had silently followed him for 3 years was the treasured heiress of the Ainsworth family. Of the three, the most shocked was undoubtedly Stella Vance. Stella had been gloating over having driven Willow away. She had assumed Willow was nothing more than a gold digger trying to climb the social ladder, an imposter in a world she didn't belong to. When Ethan had dismissed Willow, he had casually given her a check for $3 million as compensation for her 3 years of work. At the time, although Stella had told Willow to take it, she had been secretly displeased. $3 million just like that for a poor wretch like Willow. Ethan had never been that generous with her, but then Stella had thought, what's $3 million? If she became Ethan's wife, would she be short of $3 million? Once she became Mrs. Hawthorne, the family's entire billion-dollar fortune would be hers. That's why she had put on a show of magnanimity, telling Willow to take the money and leave. But she never expected Willow to act so high and mighty, claiming she didn't care for Ethan's money and demanding $100 billion instead. Back then, Stella had thought Willow was just an ignorant country girl who didn't know any better. She never imagined that Willow was actually the Ainsworth heiress. And to think she had believed Willow was the one trying to latch onto a wealthy man. It turned out Willow was the wealth. The realization made Stella's face contort with fury. Stella had always thought that a woman like Willow was on a completely different level from her. But reality had shown her that it was she who wasn't worthy of being on the same level as Willow. However, Stella quickly consoled herself. At least she still had Ethan and the Hawthorne family. While the Hawthornes were a far cry from the Ainsworths, for Stella, they were the best she could hope to attain. She linked her arm through Ethan's, only to find that his gaze was still fixed on Willow. Stella called his name several times before he finally turned to her with a frown. "What is it?" Stella was initially annoyed, but seeing Ethan's seemingly irritable mood, she felt a pang of fear and could only say meekly, "Ethan, is Willow really the Ainsworth heiress?" "She doesn't seem like it." Hearing Stella's words, Ethan's frown deepened. At that moment, Willow finished her speech and, taking Alistair's arm, gracefully walked toward the backstage area. Willow's elegant figure, enhanced by her form-fitting gold gown, swayed mesmerizingly, and Ethan found he couldn't look away. How had he never noticed before that Willow had such a good figure? And today, with just a touch of makeup, she was breathtakingly beautiful. During her years with Ethan, Willow had been perpetually overworked and had developed stomach problems, making her unnaturally thin. Her complexion had been poor, and she had looked gaunt. But now, having returned to the Ainsworth family, she had shed her emotional burdens and was once again the pampered little princess. In the month since her return, she had been cared for by a dedicated staff, with proper meals 3 times a day. Being back with her 7 brothers had lifted her spirits, and her appetite had improved. Now, having gained a little weight and with color back in her cheeks, her true beauty was revealed, a beauty that was impossible to ignore. Chapter 12. It wasn't until Willow's back disappeared from view that Ethan finally retracted his gaze. Stella's words reached his ears, sparking an inexplicable irritation within him. Could the official announcement from Celestial Holdings, Chairman Alistair Ainsworth, and the long-retired patriarch Theodore Ainsworth possibly be false? What was Stella even talking about? A family like the Ainsworths would never joke about such a thing. When he was with Stella before, Ethan had admired her grace and elegance, her ability to handle any situation with poise and tact. But now, after reuniting with her, Ethan felt that this Stella was different from the wonderful woman in his memory. He didn't know when it started, but he had begun to find Stella more petulant, petty, and often tactless. Now, when he thought of the words considerate and graceful, another figure came to mind. In the 3 years Willow had been by his side, she had taken impeccable care of him. So good, in fact, that Ethan had almost forgotten that before she arrived. A man as picky as him could go through 3 or 4 personal assistants in a single month. One wasn't satisfactory in one way, another was unacceptable in another. No one lasted more than 2 weeks under him before being fired for repeatedly crossing his lines. Some had resigned on their own, unable to cope with his endless demands. But when Willow came, she stayed for 3 whole years. In his presence, Willow seemed to have no temper. No matter what Ethan said or what demands he made, she would dutifully note them down and carry them out. She would even take the initiative to care for his mother, something that was not part of her job description, yet she did it without complaint. Willow's tastes and habits seemed to align perfectly with his. Even when she was just an intern assistant, she rarely made any major mistakes. She would even place fresh flowers and diffusers in his office, adding a different kind of atmosphere to the stern, solemn space. The first time Ethan saw a vase of flowers in his office, he found it odd and summoned Willow to ask what it was about. Willow had responded with a sense of righteous purpose. "Mr. Hawthorne, I noticed your office is only black and gray, which is a bit too severe. I thought adding a splash of color could help soften the atmosphere, making it more relaxing for visiting clients." Ethan had been slightly annoyed. He hated it when people changed his routines and habits. He was used to the cold, stark style of his office, and the sudden appearance of flowers was unsettling. But hearing her explanation, he thought it made some sense. His office did seem a bit too austere. Willow added, "Mr. Hawthorne, do you not like the hydrangeas I chose? I can switch them for something else, or perhaps you have a pollen allergy I'm not aware of." Ethan waved his hand. "It's fine, leave it, just remember to water it, don't let it die." Hearing his permission, Willow was clearly pleased. She added, "Also, Mr. Hawthorne, I've placed a wood-scented diffuser in your office. The scent is very subtle, but it has a calming effect that should help with your work. If you don't like it, I'll remove it right away." Ethan took a breath and, sure enough, detected a faint, woody fragrance. He disliked strong scents and rarely wore cologne himself, but the aroma filling his lungs was fresh and quite pleasant. His brow relaxed, and he signaled for her to leave the diffuser. Seeing that Ethan wasn't angry at her for overstepping, Willow was delighted. As she backed out of the office, her tone was almost cheerful. "Well then, Mr. Hawthorne, I won't disturb you any further. Just call me if you need anything." Ethan gave a faint grunt of acknowledgement and returned to his work. Even he didn't realize that from the moment Willow entered his world, she had been able to effortlessly change his habits. What is a habit? It is a way of life formed over years, an unconscious action, something not easily altered. Any change can cause great discomfort, like the pea under the princess's mattress, making one toss and turn all night. But Willow seemed to possess some kind of magic. With just a few words, she had easily changed Ethan's habits. Perhaps some things were different from the very beginning. Chapter 13, when they first arrived at the banquet, Elinor had hoped Ethan could win the heart of the Ainsworth heiress. That way, their Hawthorne family could climb the social ladder. While Elinor could be a bully to those she deemed beneath her, she was also shrewd. She had never expected the Ainsworth heiress to be the very Willow she had once despised. But because it was Willow, didn't that make things easier? Elinor had disliked Willow before simply because she was a snob who looked down on Willow's humble origins. She had been afraid that Ethan would actually marry Willow, dashing her dreams of latching onto a powerful in-law family. But aside from that, Elinor had no real issues with Willow. After all, Willow had been completely obedient to her, never getting angry no matter how poorly she was treated. And Willow was an excellent cook, particularly skilled at making medicinal soups. Over the past 3 years, under Willow's dietary care, Elinor felt her frail body had improved considerably. If only Willow had said she was an Ainsworth from the start, Elinor would not only have not stood in her way with Ethan, she would have forced Ethan to marry her. Elinor now felt a pang of regret. Why had Willow hidden her true identity from them for 3 long years? But it was fine. Willow was so deeply in love with Ethan, everyone around him knew it. The only reason Willow had tolerated her giving her a hard time was because she was head over heels for her son, right? Thinking this, Elinor's face lit up with delight, completely forgetting that just 20 minutes ago, she had been calling Willow a gold digger. At that moment, Willow had retreated to the side of the stage with her brother Alastair. Holding a glass of champagne, she stood beside him, smiling radiantly as she clinked glasses with the guests who came to offer their congratulations. Ethan watched the woman who moved so effortlessly among a crowd of men, an unfamiliar tightness forming in his chest. Elinor took 2 fresh glasses of champagne from a passing waiter's tray and handed one to Ethan. "Ethan, let's go offer a toast to the Ainsworth heiress." Ethan took the glass from his mother and nodded. Seeing Stella about to follow them, Elinor subtly blocked her path. "Stella, you just wait here for us. After all, you and Ethan don't have an official status yet. It wouldn't look good for you to be seen together everywhere. Besides, you don't know the Ainsworths, so you wouldn't be much help." Elinor's words were blunt, causing Stella's face to flush red and then pale. She could only meekly reply, "Of course, I'll do as you say, Mrs. Hawthorne." Watching Elinor and Ethan walk away, a surge of jealousy rose in Stella's heart. What nonsense about it not looking good. It was obvious that now that Willow was successful, Elinor wanted to drag Ethan along to ride her coattails. Stella scoffed, a sense of crisis washing over her. With Willow's status now so elevated, Elinor would surely look down on her. Stella had once thought that she and Willow were worlds apart, which was why she had never considered her a threat. She never imagined that now, Willow was the one high in the clouds, while she was merely the dirt left behind. The only thing Stella could do now was to hold onto Ethan's heart tightly. Stella clenched her fists, a plan quietly taking shape in her mind. Chapter 14, just as Willow finished clinking glasses with the last CEO who came to offer congratulations, she took a sip of her champagne and saw Elinor's fake smile as she approached, arm in arm with Ethan. A wave of nausea washed over Willow, and she shot her brother Alastair a look for help. Alastair had obviously seen Ethan too. He smiled and patted Willow's hand reassuringly. "Willow, what's coming will come. Think about what they were saying about you just a moment ago. Isn't this the perfect time to stand tall and proud?" Prompted by Alastair, Willow immediately understood his meaning. A mischievous smile spread across her face, revealing her canine teeth. Ethan, walking towards her, had his eyes fixed on her the entire time. He didn't miss that smile. In the past 3 years, he had only seen Willow's serious and professional demeanor, with occasional moments of vulnerability, but he had never seen such a playful expression on her face before. Ethan narrowed his eyes, a strange sense of curiosity stirring within him as he looked at this completely different Willow. They stopped in front of Willow and Alastair. It was Elinor who spoke first. "Willow, I never would have guessed you were the Ainsworth heiress keeping it a secret from me, your auntie, for so many years. You really are too much of a stranger, Willow. Ethan's gaze remained on Willow, but she didn't look at him. Hearing Alina's sycophantic words, Willow also smiled, feigning surprise. Mrs. Hawthorne, is that you? I almost didn't recognize you. As I recall, you weren't very fond of me before, so how could I dare bother you with such matters? Whether Alina was just thick-skinned or not very bright, she didn't seem to catch the sarcasm in Willow's tone. She took Willow's hand affectionately and laughed. Willow, what are you talking about? How could I not like you? You dear girl, when you were with our Ethan, I was so fond of you. You're beautiful, have a wonderful personality, and you make such excellent medicinal soups. Anyone would like you. Willow, you really are something else, leaving Ethan's side without a word to me. It's been so long, I've missed you. Seeing you doing so well now, I can finally rest easy. Back when you were working with Ethan, I always thought you two made a handsome couple, a perfect match. It's just that you were too young then, just barely of legal age, so I couldn't bring up the topic of you marrying Ethan. But now 3 years have passed, and you must be 25, right? A beautiful young woman, just right for our Ethan. Though Willow still had a smile on her face, she was sneering inwardly. Alina was playing her cards well. First, she brought up the past to build rapport, then she subtly mentioned her relationship with Ethan, before smoothly transitioning to the topic of marriage. Before, because she loved Ethan, Willow had willingly humbled herself before Alina just to win the favor of his family. But now, she and Ethan were done. She had no reason to indulge Alina any longer. So, Willow's smile faded. Mrs. Hawthorne, have you forgotten that just 20 minutes ago you were calling me a gold digger, and now you're singing my praises, hoping to latch onto my family? Mrs. Hawthorne, your scheming is truly something else. Have you taken a good look at your Hawthorne family? Do you really think you're worthy of a marriage alliance with the Ainsworths? Chapter 15, Willow's voice wasn't loud, but her words were clear and resonant. The ballroom was relatively quiet, and as the guest of honor, Willow was the center of attention. The other guests had been watching their interaction, either openly or discreetly. So when Willow spoke, more than half the room heard her. Alina's face fell as her words were so ruthlessly rebuffed. She was about to argue further, but was stopped by a sharp frown from Ethan. Ethan raised his glass of champagne towards Willow. Willow, I'll drink to you, as an apology on my mother's behalf. As he finished speaking, he drained the glass in one gulp. The waiters in the room were sharp. Seeing Ethan's empty glass, one immediately appeared with a fresh one. Ethan took the new glass and held it out towards Willow again. Willow, congratulations on becoming the CEO of Celestial Holdings. The reason Ethan had taken time out of his busy schedule to attend this banquet was to find someone from Celestial Holdings and get answers about the withdrawn investments and canceled partnerships. But now that he knew Willow's true identity, and that she was about to become the CEO of Celestial, what more was there to understand? The reason Celestial had suddenly cut ties with Hawthorne Group was clearly because the Ainsworth heiress had been wronged by him, and the company was now following the wishes of its new CEO. Ethan was someone who kept his work and personal life separate. To act so emotionally in business was something he would never do. In his world, there were only permanent interests, not permanent enemies. But just because he wouldn't do it didn't mean others wouldn't. So, he felt helpless in the face of Willow and Celestial's decision. What Ethan didn't know was that Willow was completely unaware of these matters. It had all been the work of her protective older brother, Alistair. What he would never have guessed was that if it weren't for Willow's feelings for him, Hawthorne Group would never have been chosen as a partner or investment target for Celestial in the first place. Ethan, who never played the sentiment card, was unaware that it was precisely these merchants who did that had unknowingly helped his company flourish. Seeing Ethan toast her, Willow finally turned her gaze to him, but she didn't raise her glass to meet his. Ethan wasn't in a hurry. He simply waited for her response. Willow smiled, swirling the contents of her glass without touching his. Mr. Hawthorne, I can't accept your apology or your congratulations. Also, we are not that familiar with each other. A familiar address like Willow seems inappropriate for our relationship. You should call me Miss Ainsworth, or perhaps CEO Ainsworth. With that, she drank her own glass of wine in one go and placed it firmly back on the table. Ignoring Ethan's darkening expression, she turned to the rest of the guests with a smile. Raising her voice slightly, she placed a hand on her chest and gave a slight bow. My apologies, everyone. I'm a bit of a lightweight and have a headache coming on, so I must take my leave early. Thank you all for attending tonight's banquet. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Chapter 16. With her announcement, the guests murmured their understanding, urging her to go rest and take care of herself. Willow nodded in acknowledgement, then gathered her skirt and disappeared into the backstage lounge. Watching her leave, Ethan felt, for the first time, the reality that Willow was truly gone from his life. In the month and a half since she had left, his work and life had been thrown into disarray. For the past 3 years, Willow had been not just his personal assistant at work, but had effectively managed his personal life as well. But since she left, her position had remained unfilled. Ethan had thought, what difference could one person leaving make? Especially someone he didn't care about, someone he could discard at any moment. But he had been proven wrong. Without Willow there to manage everything, Ethan found everything to be slightly off. Important guests arrived without anyone to properly greet them. The office diffuser ran out and was replaced with a cloying, unpleasant scent that choked him. There was no one to drink for him or serve him at business dinners. His daily schedule was no longer as organized. The pot of hydrangeas on his desk was beginning to wilt. Ethan had never realized just how much Willow had done. Eleanor had often belittled Willow in front of him, calling her nothing more than a glorified maid, saying anyone could do her job. Ethan had never responded to these comments, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. No one knew what he truly thought. But now he realized that her job was not something just anyone could do well. At least, the incompetent staff in his executive office couldn't. In her 3 years at Hawthorne Group, Willow had handled nearly 80% of the workload for the executive office, and the others had grown lazy and dependent. Seeing that Willow was good-natured and easy to bully, they even had her run their personal errands. They had forgotten that Willow reported directly to Ethan and was not part of their department. Now that she was gone, a mountain of work was left undone, and the large executive office was in chaos. They had gone from slacking off every day to being overwhelmed with pressure, and to make matters worse, every little thing they did earned them a scolding from Ethan. Faced with this disastrous situation, Ethan felt helpless. He had no choice but to post a job opening for a new secretary and personal assistant, hoping to find someone as capable as Willow. While Hawthorne Group wasn't as powerful as Celestial Holdings, it was still a major player. The moment the job opening was announced, a flood of applicants poured in. This was different from a standard corporate job at Hawthorne. An employee there might never even see Ethan in a year. But as his personal assistant and secretary, it was a different story. They would see him every day. And with rumors of his legendary good looks, many young socialites were eager for a glimpse. If one could catch his eye and marry into the Hawthorne family, it would be a dream come true. It was said that his previous personal assistant had been very close to him, by his side for 3 years, but had recently resigned for unknown reasons. Some rumored she had found a better patron. Others said she had given up on winning his heart and left in defeat. Some even said Ethan had paid her a large sum to leave. But no one knew that the personal assistant who had left was, in fact, Willow Ainsworth, the newly announced CEO of Celestial Holdings. The rumor mill was churning, but Willow and Ethan were oblivious. One was busy trying to secure investments and hire a secretary. The other was worrying about what to wear for her first day of work at Celestial Holdings on Monday. Chapter 17. After much deliberation, Willow finally chose a white pantsuit. During her 3 years with Ethan, because he exclusively wore black and dark gray, Willow's wardrobe had consisted mostly of those 2 colors to match his. But she had never actually liked such somber colors. Now that she was free of him, her closet rarely saw such dark shades. Early on Monday morning, Willow changed into the sharp, professional suit, applied some light makeup, and joined her brother Alistair in the family's private car. Alistair had never seen Willow look so professional. When she came downstairs in the white suit, he was pleasantly surprised. "Our Willow has really grown up," he said with a smile. "This is the first time I've seen you dressed like this." Willow linked her arm with his and said playfully, "No matter how old I get, I'll always be your little sister." Alistair smiled and patted her head. "At home, you'll always be our little princess. But at Celestial, you'll have to prove yourself with your abilities. Otherwise, people will start accusing me of nepotism again." Willow feigned indignation. Alistair, don't you believe in my abilities? I graduated with a finance degree from a top global university and worked by Ethan Hawthorne's side for 3 years. I've seen it all, Alistair chuckled. I know brother knows our Willow is the best. As the car neared the Celestial Holdings building, Alistair spoke again. Willow, you're coming in as the CEO, and while it was Grandpa's decision, there will definitely be some grumbling within the company. But don't worry, I'll help you until you're fully up to speed. All you need to do is focus on your responsibilities and grow as quickly as you can. Willow nodded obediently. I know, Alistair, I won't let you down. When they arrived at Celestial Holdings, Alistair led her into the building. Perhaps because it was her first day, the reception staff were lined up in 2 neat rows at the entrance, welcoming them. As Willow and Alistair walked in, they bowed slightly and said in unison, Welcome, Chairman Ainsworth, CEO Ainsworth. Startled by the grand reception, Willow gave a slightly awkward smile. Hello, everyone. There's no need for all this. Please go back to your work. At her words, the staff quickly dispersed and returned to their desks. Alistair led Willow to the exclusive top-floor elevator. She still felt a little overwhelmed. After 3 years of assisting Ethan, she had grown accustomed to a life behind the scenes, playing a supporting role. Now, suddenly thrust into the spotlight, she was still getting used to it. With a ding, the elevator reached the top floor. Willow took a deep breath and stepped out confidently. She followed Alistair into the boardroom, ignoring the gazes directed at her. There was curiosity, scrutiny, confusion, and contempt in those looks, but Willow paid them no mind. She walked with a steady gait, the crisp sound of her heels on the floor echoing in the room, each step a beat against the tension. She reached the head of the conference table, looked at everyone present, and said with confidence, Hello, everyone. I am the new CEO of Celestial Holdings, Willow Ainsworth. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Chapter 18, the first morning meeting went surprisingly smoothly. Initially, 1 or 2 board members tried to challenge Willow, but she answered their questions flawlessly, even turning their arguments back on them by pointing out flaws in their reasoning. The atmosphere grew tense for a moment, but Alistair cleared his throat and smoothed things over. Seeing no further objections, Willow officially started the meeting, with department heads coming up to give their reports. Alistair had managed Celestial Holdings exceptionally well, so for Willow, taking over was mainly a matter of familiarizing herself with the company's existing business. Other matters could proceed as they always had. As a top corporation in the capital, every employee at Celestial was a high achiever. With the CEO position now filled by Willow, Alistair found himself with much more free time. For a company's top executive, having capable and compatible right-hand assistants is essential. When Alistair stepped down as CEO, he took his longtime secretary with him, which meant Willow needed to hire a new one. Finding a good secretary or assistant is not an easy task. Otherwise, Ethan wouldn't have gone through so many in the years before Willow arrived. For the past few days, Willow had been preoccupied with finding a secretary. The executive office had forwarded numerous resumes, but after looking through them several times, she still hadn't found anyone suitable. Although Willow and Alistair were siblings, their management styles were completely different. As the eldest brother, Alistair had been immersed in the business world for many years, having learned directly from their grandfather. His style was more subtle. He always had a smile on his face, giving the impression of immense tolerance. But that smile was just a facade. There was a saying in the capital's business circles that Alistair Ainsworth, the chairman of Celestial Holdings, was a true, smiling tiger. One should never be fooled by his smile, because when he struck, he was faster, more precise, and more ruthless than anyone, delivering a fatal blow without leaving any room for recovery. Willow's style was more direct and efficient. She had high standards for many things, but also a greater capacity for tolerance. She was like a rubber band that could stretch and relax. When stretched to its limit, it would snap back much like her current attitude towards Ethan. The day she told Ethan she was the one dumping him, she had deleted and blocked all his contact information that very night. Everything that reminded her of him was thrown in the trash. For the past 3 years, while pursuing him, she could endure humiliation, suffer grievances, and swallow her pride. But now that she had walked away, she would never make the same mistake again. Just as Willow was stressing over her choice for a new secretary, Alastair, who hadn't been to the office in days, appeared like a timely rain. "Willow, busy as ever," Alastair said with a smile as he knocked on her office door and walked in. Perhaps influenced by her time with Ethan, Willow preferred to work in complete silence. So, after becoming CEO, she had moved the executive office workstations from the top floor down one level. With her secretary position currently vacant, the vast top-floor office space was occupied by her alone. Fortunately, having been Ethan's secretary for 3 years, she wasn't completely overwhelmed, but the lack of someone to organize the myriad of tasks was becoming a hassle. Willow looked up from her work. Seeing it was Alastair, her brow relaxed. "Alastair, what brings you here?" "I heard you were at your wits' end over finding a secretary, so I came to put out the fire." Willow raised an eyebrow. "Do you have someone to recommend? I should warn you, I don't accept nepotism. If the person you recommend isn't even as good as I won't do you any favors." Alastair laughed. "Willow, now that you're the CEO, you've certainly got the air of one. I've never seen you as a secretary, but the person our second brother recommended should be quite good." Now Willow's curiosity was piqued. "Someone Brendan recommended? Where is she? Let me see." Chapter 19. Willow's second brother, Brendan Ainsworth, was the family's resident genius. He had been exceptionally intelligent since childhood, skipping grades and graduating from MIT at 16. While others were still in high school, Brendan had already founded his own tech studio. As a pure tech prodigy, his studio quickly made a name for itself in the capital with its superior technology, attracting offers of collaboration from countless public companies. Today, the company Brendan founded was ranked among the Fortune 500. The reason for his remarkable success, aside from his extraordinary talent and intellect, was his uncanny ability to judge people. The few employees he had initially chosen to join his studio were now core members of his company. Therefore, Willow had complete faith in Brendan's judgment. Alastair called out towards the door. "Claire, you can come in." "Claire Nolan?" Willow was still processing the name when a woman with short hair walked in from outside. She was dressed in a crisp, professional suit and said formally, "CEO Ainsworth, hello, I'm Claire Nolan." Claire looked very capable, but she didn't seem very old, and her bob haircut gave her a surprisingly cute look, which contrasted with her serious expression. "CEO Ainsworth, this is my resume. Please take a look." Claire handed over a black folder with both hands. Willow took it, opened it, and was immediately impressed by her outstanding credentials. Alastair explained, "Claire grew up abroad. Her family has served as the estate managers for the Johnson family for generations, so she has been exposed to management and organizational skills since childhood. She's an excellent candidate." Willow closed Claire's resume and looked at the woman again. From the moment Claire walked in, Willow had felt a sense of connection with her. If she's such a talent, why didn't Brendan keep her for himself instead of recommending her to me? At this, Alastair couldn't help but laugh. Well, Brendan was also looking for a secretary recently. As you know, his company is mostly made up of hardcore gamers, so he wanted to hire a male secretary who also understood gaming. It shouldn't have been a problem, but his HR department forgot to specify that in the job posting. So Claire went for an interview, and when she was told they weren't hiring a female secretary, she argued with him for half an hour. "Your second brother thought her tenacity reminded him of you, and since she is indeed exceptionally qualified, he wanted to recommend her to you." After hearing Alastair's story, Willow immediately gave Claire a mental thumbs up. Willow had always been most afraid of her second brother. Brendan's judgment was sharp, and his tongue was notoriously venomous. He had disciplined her often growing up, so she was naturally terrified of him. To think that someone could argue with him for half an hour, Willow was genuinely impressed, so she made her decision on the spot. "All right, I'll take her." Willow had meant for Claire to start immediately to help her out. But Claire insisted on a 1-month probationary period before she could be officially hired. Willow was surprised but readily agreed to Claire's suggestion. With Claire on board, Willow's work efficiency soared. Willow had thought she had done an excellent job as Ethan's secretary for 3 years, a standard that would be hard to surpass. But to her surprise, Claire's work as a secretary was even better than her own had been. Willow couldn't help but wonder if the Nolan family had some innate talent for organization and management. Having been steeped in the traditions of the Johnson family, a state for so long. Chapter 20, a month later, Claire passed her probationary period with flying colors. By then, Willow had become adept at handling all matters at Celestial Holdings and no longer needed Alistair's guidance. Alistair was like a parent who secretly follows behind as their child learns to ride a bike. Now that Willow had finally learned, he could let go. Freed from the burdens of Celestial, Alistair was enjoying his leisure time, but things weren't as relaxed for Willow. This month, it was the third time Claire had come to inform her that Ethan Hawthorne, the CEO of Hawthorne Group, wished to see her. The first 2 times, Willow had flatly refused his requests for a meeting. But Ethan had quickly scheduled a third, which puzzled her. Based on his past behavior, if something failed twice, he would usually try a different approach, not attempt the same thing a third time. Yet, after being rejected twice, he had requested another meeting. Willow stewed over it for a while before finally accepting. After all, she couldn't avoid him forever. Some things had to be dealt with sooner or later. The meeting was set for 3 o'clock the next day. Willow finished all her work for the day in the morning, sensing that this meeting with Ethan would not be easy. At 3 o'clock, there was a punctual knock on the door of the top-floor meeting room at Celestial Holdings. Willow said, "Come in," and Claire led Ethan into the room. Willow looked at him as he entered, her expression neutral. In the 2 months since she had last seen him, he had lost some weight, likely from the stress of securing financing for Hawthorne Group. Ethan preferred a specific type of high mountain pyre tea, so that was what Willow had prepared for him today. He was dressed in his usual dark gray suit, while Willow wore a deep red ensemble, a stark contrast to her old, somber wardrobe. When Ethan saw her attire, his steps faltered for a moment. He sat down on the sofa opposite her and took a sip of the tea. It was the familiar high mountain pyre. For some reason, the gloom that had been plaguing him for days seemed to be soothed by that single sip of tea. So, she still remembered his preferences. Ethan spoke first. "Willow, you seem to have changed, yet you also seem the same." After 3 years by his side, Willow understood his meaning almost instantly. She no longer wore black business suits, that was the change. But she still prepared a cup of perfectly brewed high mountain pyre for him. That was what remained the same. Willow let out a small laugh. "Mr. Hawthorne, you're mistaken. I've never changed. What you see as a change is just my natural preference. Before, I was simply accommodating yours." As if he hadn't expected such a response, Ethan was visibly taken aback. So he hadn't been wrong. In the past 3 years, Willow's feelings for him had been genuine. Before Ethan could reply, Willow spoke again. "Mr. Hawthorne, you seem to have a short memory. I believe at our last meeting, I asked you to address me as CEO Ainsworth." But Ethan ignored her request. "Willow, you know I don't change my habits easily, and that includes how I address people. You just want to cut ties with me, but can we really sever the ties we have?" Chapter 21, instead of getting angry, Willow laughed. "Mr. Hawthorne, you make it sound as if we have some kind of sordid past." Ethan shook his head. "Willow, I admit that in the past 3 years, I used you on several occasions. But that was because I only saw you as my secretary. I thought that as partners in a professional capacity, it was normal for you to help me achieve certain goals. But in the months since you left, I've come to realize that you did so much for me because you had feelings for me, didn't you? Willow, in the days since you've been gone, I've realized how much I took your kindness for granted. You did everything perfectly. In 3 years, I truly couldn't find a single fault. You were the only assistant who ever stayed with me for that long. You always maintained a perfect sense of professional distance, so I never considered that there might be something more. The only time you ever crossed that line was on Valentine's Day 6 months ago, when you asked if I would have dinner with you. That was when I first suspected you might have different feelings for me." Willow scoffed. "Ethan, do you remember what your answer was that day when I asked you to have dinner with me?" Ethan nodded. "I remember. I asked if you were using company time to discuss personal matters." Willow smiled. "So, Mr. Hawthorne, are you now using company time to discuss personal feelings with me? If so, then I'm afraid I can't oblige." She stood to leave, but Ethan's next words stopped her in her tracks. His voice was soft as it reached her from behind. "Willow, do you still have feelings for me?" Willow felt as if she had heard something utterly absurd, that she would one day hear the word feelings from Ethan's lips. She turned back to face him. "Mr. Hawthorne, you really are forgetful. I remember that before I left the Hawthorne residence, I made it very clear to you that we were finished, and that I was the one who didn't want you anymore." Seeing her emotional reaction, Ethan looked at her for a moment, his eyes slightly red. "Willow, Stella and I have broken up. All those years ago, I was mistaken. The person I fell in love with at first sight, it was you. I was wrong. Please, give me a chance to make it up to you." His words struck her like a bolt of lightning. She laughed coldly. "Mistaken? Ethan, did you come here today just to say these ridiculous things? Who you mistook her for has nothing to do with me. Whether you and Stella have broken up is none of my business. Do I need to repeat myself? I don't have feelings for you anymore." Ethan shook his head. "No, that's not it, Willow. In the months since you left, I find myself thinking about you constantly, and I'm always inexplicably irritable. At first, I thought it was because of the recent troubles at Hawthorne Group and the fact that I couldn't find a suitable secretary. That's why I was so on edge. But just now, when I saw you, I realized the root of my frustration. I realized that my irritability these past few months has been because you weren't by my side. Willow, 7 years ago, I fell in love with your piano playing. But 7 years later, I think I've fallen in love with you." Chapter 22, hearing Ethan say he had feelings for her, Willow thought she was hallucinating. She laughed, her voice tinged with anger. "Ethan, do you even know what you're saying right now? 3 months ago, I asked you if there was ever a moment in the past 3 years when you had feelings for me, and your answer was, never. Don't tell me that in the short 3 months since I left, you've suddenly had an epiphany. Ethan, you say you have feelings for me. Is it because you genuinely like me, or is it because you see that I'm an Ainsworth and you want to get closer to me?" Ethan explained, "Willow, whose daughter you are doesn't matter to me. When you left, I thought you had no family or friends in the capital, which is why I offered you $3 million so you could live comfortably. I never expected you to refuse it. I was worried about you, with no money and no family. Then I found out you were an Ainsworth. I was surprised, but then I thought about it, and you are truly exceptional. It's not so surprising after all." A flicker of conflict crossed Willow's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by clarity. She shook her head firmly. "Ethan, even if you say all that, your feelings for me are not love. But whenever I see you standing next to another man, my chest tightens. I later realized that this feeling is jealousy. Isn't that love?" A hint of confusion colored Ethan's eyes. "It's only because I followed you around for 3 years, and now that I'm suddenly gone, you're just not used to it. You call that love? It's nothing more than your twisted sense of possessiveness. Ethan, I was your employee, not your property. Don't get it twisted. Ethan, you don't even deserve to talk about love. You once said you loved Stella, but you loved her without ever seeing through her facade of hypocrisy. You say you love me, but we spent 3 years together day in and day out, and you don't even know I'm allergic to cream? Ethan, when you made me go to Stella's concert with you, you fed me a piece of cake. Do you have any idea how I felt then? On one hand, I was heartbroken that after 3 years, you still didn't remember my allergy. But on the other hand, I was ecstatic, because you rarely showed me such intimacy. So even though I knew I would have a reaction, even though I knew you were just trying to provoke Stella, I still ate it. I thought, maybe if you saw my allergic reaction, you would feel even a little bit of guilt. But you didn't, Ethan. When I collapsed and called for your help, you abandoned me without a second thought and ran to a pretending to be sick Stella. When I was hospitalized for a week due to a severe allergic reaction, you never once came to see me. And that time at your house, when your mother burned my arm, you grabbed it tightly just to make Stella misunderstand, to put on a show of intimacy. But your grip worsened my burn. You never knew about these things, and you never asked. Ethan, you strung me along for 3 years, using me when you needed me and kicking me aside when you didn't. You have no right to talk to me about love. Hearing Willow's sharp, incisive words, a wave of guilt finally washed over Ethan. He had truly been unaware of all these things she mentioned, but his ignorance only highlighted how much he had neglected her over the past 3 years. Perhaps he had always seen Willow as a convenient tool, and only now that the tool was gone did he realize he had developed feelings for it. Ethan wanted to say something more. Willow, but he was cut off by Willow's cold voice. Ethan, you can leave now. I don't want to see you again. Chapter 23, Ethan took a step forward, wanting to explain, but Willow's next words were even more decisive. Ethan, your so-called love for me is just you. after careful consideration, deciding that I am the most suitable choice for you. But you don't understand what love truly is. If you truly loved me, you would never have given me a flat-out no when I asked if you had ever had feelings for me in the past 3 years. Ethan, love is instinctive. If you truly loved me, it wouldn't have taken you this long to realize your own feelings. You unconditionally believed Stella, unconditionally stood by her side, got angry on her behalf when she was bullied, and let her affect your mood. That is love. As for your feelings for me, it's just resentment that I'm no longer yours. Ethan, stop explaining. There is no possibility between us. I know you came here today to discuss business. Let's just follow the proper procedures for that. Submit your partnership proposal to the relevant department at Celestial Holdings. Whether we cooperate or not will be based solely on merit. Whether it's for business or personal reasons, I don't think we need to see each other again. From now on, let's go our separate ways and be strangers. Willow's words were sharp and final, leaving Ethan speechless. After a conversation like that, his pride would never allow him to bring up the matter of a corporate partnership. So he asked one last question. Willow, the termination of the partnership between Celestial and Hawthorne and the withdrawal of investments from our subsidiaries, was that your decision? Willow looked at him with genuine astonishment, as if he had said something absurd. She had known nothing about the canceled partnership and withdrawn funds, but she figured it must have been her brother's doing. Willow knew her 7 brothers doted on her. The only reason Alastair had made the unusual choice to partner with Hawthorne Group in the first place must have been because she was working there. Willow had never been one to mix business with personal matters. In her 3 years at Hawthorne, she had relied on her own abilities, never once using her family's influence. Now that she had left, she would certainly not use her family's power to suppress them. She had thought that after 3 years by his side, she knew everything about him. And after 3 years of being together day and night, even someone as oblivious as Ethan should have understood her a little. Even if he didn't know about her cream allergy, he shouldn't have questioned her on a matter of principle like this. Willow let out a cold laugh. Ethan, I worked tirelessly for you for 3 years. I didn't even care about your $3 million. Do you think I would care about a business partnership between Celestial and Hawthorne? I'm not that petty. Ethan was a smart man. Her words made it clear. If Celestial had ended their partnership and withdrawn their investments right after she left Hawthorne, it meant that 3 years ago, they had chosen Hawthorne because of her. A complex mix of emotions churned within him. He truly knew so little about her. He struggled for a moment before finally saying, I'm sorry. For the past 3 years, I let you down. Willow didn't reply. Ethan silently turned and left. Willow didn't watch him go. Instead, she drained the remaining tea in her cup, placed it gently on the tray, and left the meeting room. All the love and hate between them ended here. Chapter 24, under the guise of her birthday, the Ainsworth family threw a grand birthday banquet for Willow. It was partly to celebrate her birthday, and partly to give her an opportunity to expand her network. This birthday banquet was also one of the rare occasions where all 8 Ainsworth siblings appeared together in public. Even at the banquet announcing her as the new CEO of Celestial, only her eldest brother, Alastair, had been present. After all, the other 6 brothers, while holding shares in Celestial, did not hold positions in the company. Even the busiest of her brothers had cleared their schedules to attend, because for them, nothing was more important than Willow's birthday. As a result, many people hoping to connect with the other Ainsworth brothers also flocked to the event. Willow's birthday banquet was an unprecedentedly lavish affair. The Ainsworths had sent out invitations to all the major corporations and prominent families in the capital. Many attended in person, and those who couldn't sent lavish gifts. Today was Willow Ainsworth's 25th birthday. Dressed in a pink formal gown and wearing the special small tiara her 3rd brother, Julian, had given her, she looked every bit the real-life princess. The female guests in attendance couldn't help but cast envious glances her way. The only little princess of the capital's Ainsworth family, and already the CEO of Celestial Holdings at just 25. On top of that, she had 7 outstanding, doting older brothers. Who wouldn't be envious of a life like that? To top it all off, Willow was blessed with stunning looks, a wonderful personality, and a sharp mind. She was the very picture of what every woman aspired to be. The 8 Ainsworth siblings stood in the place of honor, greeting and clinking glasses with the guests who came to offer toasts. The 8 of them, all handsome men and beautiful women, each possessed a unique charisma, but all were undeniably the cream of the crop. Anyone who saw them had to admit that the Ainsworth family was truly blessed. The lights in the banquet hall dimmed. A waiter wheeled out an enormous multi-tiered cake, and led by Willow's 7 brothers, all the guests sang "Happy Birthday" in unison. Willow closed her eyes and devoutly made 3 birthday wishes before blowing out the candles. After making a symbolic first cut, she handed the cake over to the staff to be distributed among the guests. Afterward, a long line of people came forward to present Willow with birthday gifts. She thanked each one before having the presents collected. By the end of the night, Willow felt like she was about to collapse from exhaustion. Once the banquet concluded, Willow retreated to the lounge. She kicked off her high heels and sank into the sofa, rubbing her cheeks, which were sore from smiling. "Oh my God, that was the most exhausting birthday ever," she complained. "I've been smiling for so long, I think my face is frozen." Her 4th brother, Adrian, followed her in and chuckled. "You've worked hard, Willow. So many people came to toast you, and I saw you drank quite a bit. How are you feeling? Are you dizzy? Should I have someone make you some soup to sober you up?" Willow shook her head. "I'm fine, 4th brother. I still have to open my presents." The lounge was piled high with gift boxes. The Ainsworth family staff had thoughtfully labeled each box with the sender's name and a gift receipt. Willow, looking at the long list, began to open the gifts from her 7 brothers. All 7 of them knew just what she liked, and she adored every present. After unwrapping her brothers' gifts, Willow continued down the list of senders. Most were from people she was acquainted with, but 2 names stood out, and their appearance on the list was a complete surprise. Chapter 25, the first was Ethan Hawthorne. After they had last parted on bad terms, Willow and Ethan had had no contact. The Ainsworth family hadn't even sent an invitation to the Hawthorne group for the birthday banquet. Unexpectedly, Ethan had still sent someone with a gift. So, he remembered her birthday after all. During the 3 years she had spent by his side, Willow had received gifts from Ethan before, but they were always impersonal, formulaic gestures. Besides, she knew all too well that he had never picked them out himself. So this year was his gift, also bought by a secretary. Willow found Ethan's present. It was a massive box. Opening it, she found a giant teddy bear made of pink preserved flowers, and lying with it was a pink diamond necklace of incredible value. Even her 3rd brother, Julian, who had seen his fair share of glamour in the entertainment industry, raised an eyebrow. "Whoa, who sent this? They really went all out." Willow was a little surprised. How did Ethan know she liked pink? There was a card in the bear's paws, with Ethan's handwriting on it. "Willow, happy birthday. I'm so sorry for making you be a superhero for 3 years. For the rest of your life, I hope you can always be a princess." Reading Ethan's handwritten card, Willow was left speechless. It seemed Ethan was finally starting to understand matters of the heart. But regardless, it was impossible for them now. When she decided to let something go, she never looked back. The other name on the gift list that puzzled Willow was Maximilian Thorne. As a prominent family in the capital, on par with the Ainsworths, the Thornes had naturally received an invitation. But the Ainsworths had only sent it out of politeness, with no real expectation that they would attend. The Thorne family patriarch and his wife had passed away in an accident years ago, leaving only the elderly Mrs. Thorne to preside over the family. She was advanced in age and had long since stopped attending any public functions. And the heir, Maximilian Thorne, had been studying abroad for years, making it even more unlikely for him to appear in the capital. So when Willow received a gift from him, she was clearly shocked. Wasn't Maximilian abroad? Why would he send her a gift? Moreover, Willow couldn't recall ever having any interaction with Maximilian Thorne. Why on earth would he send her a present? Maximilian's style was completely different from Ethan's. If Ethan's gift box was the largest in the pile, Maximilian's was certainly the smallest. With a puzzled expression, Willow picked up the palm-sized gift box. Inside was a pair of pink diamond stud earrings. Although both Ethan and Maximilian had sent pink diamonds, Maximilian's earrings were far more valuable than Ethan's necklace. Ethan's necklace was made of many small, pavé-set diamonds. Maximilian's earrings, however, were carved from two enormous, raw pink diamonds. Pink diamonds were rare to begin with. Stones of this size were practically unheard of. It was clear that Maximilian had spared no expense. But she had no connection to him, so why would he send such a lavish gift? Puzzled, Willow picked up the small card inside the box. It also contained a single sentence, which she guessed was in Maximilian's handwriting. Ethan's script was neat and elegant, while Maximilian's was more fluid and unrestrained. Both were undeniably beautiful. Maximilian had written, "Miss Willow Ainsworth, happy birthday. I look forward to seeing you again." Chapter 26, Maximilian's note left Willow completely bewildered. She didn't remember having any connection with the Thorne family heir. She was quite sure they had never even met. Why would he say he looked forward to seeing her again? If there was no first time, how could there be a second? Willow asked her third brother, Julian, with a hint of confusion, "Third brother, do you know Maximilian Thorne?" Julian thought for a long moment. "I think I might have met him once or twice, but we're not familiar at all. I remember he was always studying abroad. Maybe Alastair or Brendan would know him better." "Right. I don't remember meeting him either, but he writes as if he knows me well." Willow showed Julian the card. He raised an eyebrow and said, "Beats me. Could he have been secretly following you? It's not impossible. After all, our Willow has always had a lot of admirers." Just then, her eldest brother, Alastair, walked in. "What are you two talking about? You look so happy." Seeing Alastair, Willow hurried over. "Eldest brother, you're just in time. I wanted to ask you about Maximilian Thorne." "Maximilian Thorne?" Alastair was clearly surprised to hear the name. "Why are you talking about him?" Willow explained about the gift and the card. Alastair nodded. "I see. I've met him a few times. Don't let his age fool you. He's one of the few rivals I truly respect." Willow was taken aback by Alastair's assessment. Alastair was a full 10 years older than her, and far more experienced in both worldly knowledge and personal conduct. Few people earned his approval, and even fewer were called a worthy rival. But from what Willow knew, Maximilian was at most 2 or 3 years older than her. How had he earned such high praise from Alastair? Alastair explained, "You too might not know this, but after old Mr. Thorne and his son and daughter-in-law passed away, the burden of the Thorne family fell on the old lady's shoulders. She was a force to be reckoned with in her youth, but she's getting on in years. So, Maximilian took the initiative to shoulder the family's responsibilities. I think he was just 20 at the time. And what's truly impressive is that he's been completing his studies abroad all these years, rarely returning to the country. He's managed everything remotely from overseas. But even so, he's made the Thorne Group's market value soar, year after year. I don't think even I could have done that. That's why I say he's a worthy rival." Hearing Maximilian's story, Willow felt a surge of admiration for him. But if he rarely came back to the country, when could he possibly have met her? Seeing her puzzled look, Alastair smiled and patted her head. "What is it, Willow? Are you interested in meeting him? As it happens, he's returning next week and has set up a private welcome home dinner. He sent me an invitation. Would you like to go with me and meet him?" Willow pouted. "Did he send an invitation to you or to us? If it was just for you, wouldn't I be crashing the party if I showed up unannounced? He didn't even invite me." Before Alastair could answer, Julian pulled another card from behind the earring box. "Willow, there's another card here." Chapter 27, Huh? Willow took the exquisite card and went to open it. Alastair, with his sharp eyes, recognized it instantly as the invitation to Maximilian's welcome home party. The card's shape was unique, the silhouette of 2 overlapping hearts. He couldn't imagine why a grown man like Maximilian would use such a girly design for his invitations. Alastair teased, "Oh, it seems our Willow received an invitation too. You must be quite important, Willow." "Maximilian had my invitation sent directly to the office, but yours came tucked inside a birthday gift." "What special treatment?" Willow's face flushed slightly. It's not like that, it was probably just convenient. Since he was sending a birthday gift anyway, he just included the invitation to save a trip. Seeing Willow's rare blush, Alastair chuckled. "But from what I hear, fewer than 10 people in the entire capital received this invitation. Willow, is there something between you and Maximilian that your brothers don't know about?" "Eldest brother, what are you talking about? You all watched me grow up. What could I possibly hide from you?" Though she said this, a question was rising in her own mind. It was indeed very strange. If, as Alastair said, fewer than 10 people received this invitation, how could she be one of them? Driven by a desire to solve the mystery, on the day of the party, Willow finished her work early and got into Alastair's car. Alastair had said it was just a small, private dinner, so there was no need to be too formal. Willow had initially planned to have Claire arrange an evening gown for her, but after Alastair's words, she changed into a dress that was formal but not ostentatious. Autumn had arrived in the capital, and it was a bit chilly for just a dress, so she wore a long trench coat over it. Her makeup that day was also softer than her usual professional look. She swapped her bold red lipstick for a dusty rose shade, giving her a slightly girlish, rosy glow. As for accessories, out of respect, Willow wore the pink diamond earrings Maximilian had given her for her birthday. Sitting in Alastair's car, she felt a strange nervousness. After all, this man was a complete stranger to her, yet his tone suggested he had known her for years. Willow was nervous, but also faintly expectant. She wondered what kind of person Maximilian Thorne would be. When they arrived, Willow and Alastair got out of the car. Willow surveyed the establishment. It was a members-only club she had never been to before, and it didn't look very large from the outside. Wasn't this supposed to be a welcome home party? Could this small place really accommodate that many people? Pushing the door open, Willow discovered a whole new world inside. The exterior was dark and unassuming, but the interior was exquisite. Willow followed Alastair into a private room and immediately froze. At her birthday party, Alastair had told her that fewer than 10 people in the capital had received this invitation. But in this room, including herself and Alastair, there were only 7 people. This wasn't a welcome home party. It was a small dinner gathering. Willow grumbled to herself. Have things gotten this competitive? Do people send out formal invitations for dinner with friends now? It wasn't until she stepped further into the room that she realized just who was sitting there. The man in the seat of honor must be Maximilian Thorne. As Willow looked at him, her gaze met his smiling eyes. Chapter 28, Willow felt as if she'd been burned by his gaze and quickly looked away. Glancing at the other 4 people, she realized they were the CEOs of 4 major corporations. And all 4 of those companies were on the list of potential partners she wanted to work with next quarter. A thrill of excitement shot through her. She had been planning to approach them privately to discuss collaborations. She never expected that a casual social event would bring all 4 of these titans together in one place. A flicker of delight crossed her eyes. When she met Maximilian's gaze again, she realized that she had indeed seen this handsome man somewhere before. After Alastair introduced her to everyone present, Willow belatedly realized she was the only woman at the table. The table was small, with only the 2 seats to Maximilian's left vacant, clearly reserved for her and Alastair. Willow had intended to let Alastair take the seat next to Maximilian, but her brother gestured for her to sit there instead. Feeling a bit awkward, Willow did as he indicated. Maximilian watched her as she sat down. She gave him a slight nod, a silent greeting. But Maximilian had no intention of letting her off that easily. He twirled a ring on his finger and said with feigned disappointment, "It seems Miss Ainsworth doesn't remember me." His familiar tone flustered Willow. Why is he saying something so misleading right after we've met? As if there's some history between us, she glanced at the others at the table. Seeing Alastair and the others were deep in conversation and paying them no mind, she breathed a sigh of relief. "Mr. Thorne," she asked uncertainly, "have we met before?" Maximilian sighed. "Ah, I suppose a person of your stature has a lot on their mind. I met you 3 years ago at a banquet hosted by Ethan Hawthorne. I even remarked at the time how I envied Mr. Hawthorne for having such a beautiful woman by his side. I never thought that just 3 years later, that same beautiful woman would have forgotten all about me." Willow stared blankly for a moment before it dawned on her. She did recall something like that. 3 years ago, not long after she started as Ethan's assistant, it was the first banquet she attended as his date. She remembered that Ethan had sent her a black, high-slit halter dress to wear that day. That was probably when Willow was at her best, right after joining Ethan's side. Back then, she still carried the aura of the Ainsworth family's little princess. She had worn that dress to perfection, and the moment she appeared on Ethan's arm, she had captivated the entire room. As she accompanied Ethan making the rounds, she seemed to recall toasting a man named Maximilian Thorne. Ethan had seemed very surprised by his presence that day and had ended up talking with him for a long time. Willow had just stood there obediently, quietly waiting for their conversation to end, but she kept feeling a pair of eyes on her. Whenever she looked over, however, the gaze would disappear. Chapter 29, Willow hadn't given it much thought at the time. Instead, she had looked up to study Maximilian, thinking he was one of the very few men who could stand next to Ethan Hawthorne and not be outshone. While the Hawthorne name wasn't the most prominent in the capital, Ethan's handsome looks were certainly top tier. So, this man who held his own in front of Ethan had indeed left an impression on her. But back then, her world had revolved solely around Ethan, so she had soon forgotten about it. Now that Maximilian had brought it up, the memory came flooding back. A look of realization spread across Willow's face. "I remember now," she said, looking at him. "It was you." At the same time, she was surprised. Did someone actually know about her time with Ethan? Few people in the capital's high society knew her personally, and the social circles the Hawthornes moved in were on a different level from the Ainsworths. So, although she had attended many functions with Ethan, she hadn't run into any of those people since returning to Celestial Holdings. Besides her 7 brothers, no one knew she had spent 3 years by Ethan's side. Maximilian was the first person to ever mention it. The Thorne and Ainsworth families had been friends for generations. By rights, Maximilian shouldn't have even been at a Hawthorne-hosted event. "But what were you doing there, Mr. Thorne?" Willow asked. "The Hawthorne Group doesn't seem quite prominent enough to be partnering with the Thorne Group." Maximilian's smile deepened. His eyes seemed to hold a magical power, like a marsh that drew her in, making it impossible to look away. He chuckled softly and said slowly, "What if I told you I was there for you?" Willow's eyes widened slightly as she looked at him in disbelief. Just as she was about to say something, Alistair cut in at the perfect moment. "Willow, Maximilian, what are you two talking about that's so interesting?" Maximilian was the first to respond. "Nothing much, just catching up." Alistair clearly wasn't too concerned with the real answer. He turned to Willow and said, "Willow, I've already settled the collaborations for next quarter and next year with Mr. Liang and the others. Remember to have someone send them the proposals and contracts and make sure to follow up." Willow was stunned. "What?" In the time it took to exchange a few sentences, Alistair already sealed the deals. That was incredibly fast. She hadn't even figured out how to broach the topic of business herself. After all, today was Maximilian's welcome home party, and she felt it was inappropriate to discuss work. She never imagined Alistair would solve one of her biggest challenges in just a few minutes. Willow nodded. "All right, I'll oversee the follow-up. It's a pleasure to be working with all of you. On behalf of Celestial Holdings, I'd like to raise a toast to everyone." Just as she lifted her wine glass, Maximilian, who was sitting beside her, placed a hand on her wrist. She looked at him, confused. He took the wine glass from her hand, replaced it with a teacup, and said, "I'm the guest of honor today. Toast me first. Tea will do just fine." Chapter 30. Before Willow could react, Maximilian gently tapped her teacup with his wine glass. "Miss Ainsworth is as beautiful as she is diligent in her work. It's a true pleasure to meet you," he said with a smile. Without another word, he drained his glass. Willow, regaining her composure, took a sip from her teacup. "The pleasure is all mine, Mr. Thorne." Whether it was her imagination or not, she felt that her words seemed to please him. Maximilian's lips curved into a smile. He poured himself another glass of wine and raised it. "All right, everyone, you're all here to welcome me home. Let's not talk shop while we eat. Drink up and let's get this meal started." Everyone present was a close friend of Maximilian's, so they all raised their glasses and toasted with him. After that, the formalities ceased, and everyone began to eat in earnest. As the dishes were brought out one by one, Willow was surprised to find that her taste in food was remarkably similar to Maximilian's. Almost every dish on the large table was something she loved. As Maximilian had said, no one at the table talked about work. The group consisted of old friends, and they spent the time reminiscing about amusing stories from years past. Willow couldn't join in, so she lowered her head and focused on her food. The food was even better than she had imagined. When she took a bite of a small rib, an explosion of flavor burst on her taste buds. It was so delicious she couldn't help but close her eyes in pleasure. While the men at the table were engaged in lively conversation, Willow was the only one quietly engrossed in her meal. Work at Celestial Holdings had been hectic lately, and it had been a long time since she had been able to sit down and enjoy a proper meal. It was rare to be at such a place for something other than business, so she ate with particular relish. What she didn't notice was that Maximilian, while chatting with his friends, would occasionally glance her way. Seeing her eating so happily, he would subtly curve his lips into a smile after a satisfying meal. The party finally broke up. Willow had thought they might move on to another venue, but to her surprise, everyone headed straight home. As if sensing her confusion, a slightly tipsy Maximilian explained, "Those guys are all under their wives' thumbs. They have curfews, you see. They're rushing back." Willow nodded in understanding and asked without thinking, "What about you, Mr. Thorne? Do you have a curfew too?" Maximilian smiled and shook his head. "I wish I did, but alas, I'm a single man." Willow was surprised by his answer. "Someone as exceptional as you is single, I would think you'd have countless admirers." Maximilian looked at Willow, his handsome eyes shining brightly in the moonlight. He looked at her and said softly, "I'm a very timid person. I've been in love with someone for many years, but I don't dare to tell her, because I'm afraid she doesn't like me back." Willow never imagined that someone as brilliant and handsome as Maximilian could be so shy when it came to love. She smiled gently in a comforting sort of way. "I'm sure that's not true, Mr. Thorne. You're talented, successful at such a young age, and a true gentleman. I can't imagine any woman would be able to refuse your confession." Maximilian's eyes lit up. He then asked softly, almost in a whisper, "If it were you, would you say yes?" Chapter 31. Willow froze for a second, but then dismissed it as something he was saying in a drunken stupor and didn't take it to heart. "Mr. Thorne, you're drunk," she said lightly. A self-deprecating smile touched Maximilian's lips. "Why bother with such pleasantries, Miss Ainsworth? You say no woman could refuse my confession, but didn't you just refuse me a second later?" Willow seemed a little perplexed. "Why are you pressing me on this, Mr. Thorne? I have trouble making decisions. It's always been my weakness. Every choice requires careful consideration. I haven't been thinking about romantic matters lately, so I don't think I can answer that question. Excellence isn't my sole criterion for a partner, and besides, I don't really know you." Willow wasn't sure how much of her lengthy explanation Maximilian had absorbed. He was silent for a moment, then cried out in pain, clutching his head. "Ah, my head hurts." Willow quickly steadied him, feeling a bit odd herself. What was she doing, arguing with a drunk man? They were just drunken words. She should have just played along. Alistair was already in the family car. He had also had a bit to drink, and was now leaning back in the luxury car's rear seat with his eyes closed. As the only sober person, Willow was tasked with waiting with Maximilian for his driver. Otherwise, she would never be standing here making small talk with someone she barely knew. Seeing Maximilian with his head bowed in silence, something suddenly occurred to her, and she voiced her question. "Mr. Thorne, why did you invite me today? Was it just because of that one meeting 3 years ago? It seems like everyone else here are old friends of yours, including my brother." "Oh, and thanks to you, I managed to close a huge deal today completely by chance. Thank you so much for that." Maximilian rubbed his temples, looking like he was in great pain. "I don't want to hear these pleasantries," he said irritably. "Just tell me how you plan to thank me." Willow hadn't expected such a response. Wasn't the business world all about exchanging insincere courtesies? She was long used to it. Could it be that Maximilian, who had been in a high position for years, wasn't? When Willow didn't reply, Maximilian suddenly looked up and asked aggressively, "Willow Ainsworth, why aren't you talking? Aren't you sincere about thanking me?" Seeing him like this, Willow was surprised, but she also found his childish, tit-for-tat behavior somewhat endearing. She couldn't help but smile. "Of course I'm sincere. Whatever you ask, Mr. Thorne, just name it." Hearing her call him Mr. Thorne again and again was getting on his nerves. "If you really want to thank me, can you stop calling me Mr. Thorne? It's grating to hear." Before Willow could answer, he spoke again. "Willow Ainsworth, I did you a huge favor. It's only right that you treat me to a meal, isn't it?" He stared at her face, as if waiting for her answer. Chapter 32. Willow nodded. "Of course. A meal is definitely in order." Just then, the Thorne family's driver finally arrived. The driver hurried out of the car and, together with Willow, helped the half-drunk Maximilian into the vehicle. As Willow was about to stand up, Maximilian grabbed her wrist. For some reason, she thought a drunk Maximilian was like a big dog baring its teeth, not fierce at all, but rather cute. So she didn't struggle, asking with a hint of resignation, "What else is there? You promised, no backing out. You owe me a meal." Willow felt like she was coaxing a child. All right, she said obediently. "Whatever you say, you're the boss." Hearing her affirmative answer, Maximilian finally smiled with satisfaction and let go of her hand. The Thorne family driver apologized profusely to Willow before driving Maximilian away. Watching Maximilian's car slowly disappear into the distance, Willow finally turned away. Thinking about what had just happened, she couldn't help but chuckle. She had assumed the iron-fisted CEO of the Thorne Group would be a cold, unsmiling tyrant, just like Ethan Hawthorne. But she never expected Maximilian to have such a free-spirited personality. Remembering his fluid, unrestrained handwriting, Willow couldn't help but marvel. The saying, "the handwriting reflects the man," was really true. She returned to her family's car. Seeing her, Alistair opened his eyes. He had been waiting for her for so long that he had almost fallen asleep. His voice was a bit hoarse. Alistair yawned and asked, "Willow, what took you so long? Has Maximilian left?" Willow nodded. "Yes, his driver just arrived. He's gone now." Numbed by the alcohol, Alistair was extremely sleepy. Paying no mind to the thoughtful expression on Willow's face, he leaned back against the seat and closed his eyes again. Willow watched the neon light streak past the window, a subtle and indescribable feeling stirring within her. Meanwhile, in another car, Maximilian, who had just left, felt the haze in his eyes quickly clear, replaced by a look of perfect sobriety. The Thorne family driver glanced in the rearview mirror, saw the sparkle in Maximilian's eyes, and jumped in surprise. "Mr. Thorne, you weren't drunk at all." The driver had been grumbling to himself just moments before. If Mr. Thorne was drunk, why had he been told to arrive late? He had arrived much earlier, but had been forced to circle the block several times. Hearing the driver, Maximilian's lips curved into a smile. Just as the driver thought he wouldn't get a reply, his voice came softly. "The wine doesn't intoxicate. One intoxicates oneself." Chapter 33. The next morning, Willow arrived at Celestial Holdings early to hold a morning meeting and announce the partnerships for the next quarter. The 4 CEOs she had met at Maximilian's dinner were already the top candidates for Celestial Holdings' quarterly partnerships, so proposals for them had been prepared in advance. Willow had initially thought that even if she couldn't secure deals with all 4 companies, she could at least get 2, with backup options for the others. She had been racking her brain over this, as Celestial Holdings was expanding into new territories, and those 4 were leading companies they had never worked with before. She had been feeling uncertain, but she never could have imagined that simply by having one meal with Maximilian, she would smoothly secure all the partnerships. It felt like a dream. When Willow announced the news in the meeting, the employees of Celestial Holdings were both surprised and thrilled. As top professionals in their industry, the staff at Celestial Holdings were eager to collaborate with outstanding partners to create something spectacular. So, everyone was delighted to hear that Willow had finalized partnerships with these 4 companies. Claire Nolan, Willow's chief secretary, was especially amazed that the projects were a go without her even receiving any prior notice. "CEO Ainsworth, you're incredible," Claire exclaimed. "How did you manage to accomplish something so huge in just one night? Securing 4 partnerships at once? CEO Ainsworth, you're my idol." Having settled in at Celestial Holdings, Claire was no longer the cold, stoic person she first appeared to be. She had let her true personality show, and everyone had come to see her adorable side. The chorus of compliments and praise made Willow a bit embarrassed. All right, she said quickly. "Now that we have this opportunity, we must do our absolute best. Besides, it was Chairman Ainsworth who secured these deals. I just benefited from his work. This is just the beginning, so let's not celebrate too early. We've only confirmed the intent to cooperate. Soon, we'll need to present our proposals and contracts to our partners, and there are many tough battles ahead. We need to strive to turn a one-quarter partnership into a long-term collaboration. That's the real goal. Does everyone understand?" Willow's voice wasn't loud, but it ignited a fire in everyone present. A unified chant erupted in the conference room. "Understood, we guarantee we'll complete the mission." Looking at their solemn faces, Willow found it amusing. "Why are you all so serious? You look like you're about to salute me and march off to war." "All right, that's all for today's meeting. Everyone, delegate the tasks at hand and keep each other on track. It's going to be a busy period, but once this project is settled, you can be sure there will be generous bonuses and benefits for all of you." "Hooray, long live CEO Ainsworth." Someone started the cheer, and soon everyone was laughing and joking again. Willow shook her head with a helpless smile, picked up her tablet, and left the conference room. Chapter 34. When she returned to her office and picked up her phone, Willow realized it was already lunchtime. Claire brought in her pre-prepared lunch and then quietly left. While eating from the lunchbox, Willow replied to the messages she had missed during the meeting. Suddenly, she noticed a small red dot on her friend request icon, indicating someone had sent a request. She wasn't surprised. Someone had leaked her contact information before, so she occasionally got requests from rich playboys trying to get to know her. She was used to it by now. For people she didn't know or wasn't interested in, her method was always the same: block immediately. Willow assumed today would be no different, but when she opened the request list, she found something unexpected. The person's profile picture was a black and white photo of piano keys, and their name was just the number 1. If it weren't for the profile picture, Willow would have thought it was a bot. The person hadn't identified themselves in the request, but had left a message. "You promised to buy me dinner but didn't leave your contact info. How am I supposed to find you?" Seeing the message, Willow couldn't help but smile. Even though it was just text, she could almost hear Maximilian's tone and see his expression. His voice seemed to echo in her mind. Willow quickly accepted his friend request and sent a message. "My apologies, Mr. Thorne. This morning was just too hectic. I haven't had a chance to ask my brother for your contact information yet." Almost as soon as she sent the message, the typing indicator appeared in the chat box. Maximilian's reply came quickly. "We agreed last night, no more, Mr. Thorne." "Your memory really is short, Miss Ainsworth. Forgetting our meeting 3 years ago is one thing, but how can you not even remember last night?" Willow replied, "What should I call you then?" Maximilian's response was so fast she wondered if he had even typed anything. "Anything but Mr. Thorne. Call me whatever you like. And in return, may I call you Willow?" Willow smiled and typed back, "You may. When are you free? I'll treat you to dinner. You pick the place." The typing indicator flickered a few times. It seemed Maximilian was typing and deleting over and over again. Finally, just a few words appeared. But seeing his reply made Willow's heart skip a beat. She had never met someone who took her every word to heart and wanted to act on it immediately. Willow was a classic case of indecisiveness. When faced with a choice, she would always hesitate, put it aside, and shrink back. But Maximilian was her complete opposite. He was a man of action. Whatever he wanted, he had to do it right away, as if waiting even a moment longer would be too late. So, in response to her question, Maximilian's reply was, "See you tomorrow." Willow sent back an okay and then dimmed her phone screen. As she put a piece of broccoli in her mouth, she couldn't help but recall a passage she had always loved. "I don't want to hear about the past, or the future, or how many years it's been since we've seen each other. Don't plan, don't hesitate. While the longing is fresh, while the memories are still warm, please just meet with the me who is here now. Life is too short. We don't know how much time we have left, so we must seize every possible now." Chapter 35. The next morning, Willow received a message from Maximilian. He said he would be at Celestial Holdings at 5 o'clock sharp to pick her up. So, Willow finished her work early, touched up her makeup, and went downstairs with her coat. As soon as she stepped out of the Celestial Holdings building, she saw a luxury car parked at the entrance. Today, Maximilian wasn't driving a low-slung supercar but a Rolls-Royce, which was much more comfortable. 5 in the afternoon was peak time for employees leaving the building, so the area was bustling with people, many of whom were glancing at Maximilian's car. Maximilian, however, seemed completely unfazed by the attention. He had brazenly parked his car right at the main entrance. The security guards, seeing his presence, didn't dare to ask him to move and just let him be. He got out of the driver's seat, walked around to the passenger side, and leaned against the door, checking his watch. 2 minutes to 5. Leaning against the car, he scanned the crowd of people leaving Celestial Holdings with a look of slight boredom, squinting as if the person he was waiting for wasn't among them. A handsome man with a luxury car was a sight that would make even a passing ant turn its head. So, everyone walking past the entrance of Celestial Holdings couldn't help but look his way. Today, Maximilian had deliberately foregone a suit, opting instead for a deep brown wool coat that made him look tall, elegant, and exceptionally dashing. From the ground floor lobby, Willow had already spotted him from a distance. The employees of Celestial Holdings were surprised to see her in the lobby at this hour and greeted her one after another. Willow was wearing a black velvet long dress today. Her exquisite makeup and glossy lips made her look breathtakingly beautiful. The 2 large pink diamond earrings she wore were particularly eye-catching. Willow smiled and returned everyone's greetings as she walked step by step toward Maximilian. Seeing that the handsome man and his luxury car were there for Willow, the employees exchanged knowing glances, their gossip-loving hearts ignited. Who was this man they didn't recognize? Although they knew Willow was naturally beautiful, anyone with eyes could see that she had clearly put extra effort into her appearance today. The man who could make Willow go to such lengths was definitely not simple. Maximilian had obviously seen Willow in the crowd as well. A smile played on his lips, but he didn't step forward to meet her. Instead, he just watched as she walked toward him. The pink diamond earrings he had given her were sparkling in the setting sun. To him, Willow was so beautiful it was impossible to look away. Even such expensive diamonds could only serve as her foil. Willow stopped in front of him. Seeing his intense gaze and his silence, she spoke first. "Maximilian, shall we go?" Snapping back to reality, Maximilian opened the passenger door for her, not forgetting to compliment her. "What a beautiful little princess. For a moment, I thought you had stepped right out of a fairy tale." He delivered the playful line with utmost sincerity. Willow couldn't help but smile, a feeling like a cat's tail brushing against her heart. "I'm treating you to dinner. I couldn't be too casual." After closing her door, Maximilian walked around to the driver's seat and got in. Chapter 36. As the car pulled away, Willow couldn't help but ask, "Where are we going?" Maximilian's lips curved into a mysterious smile. "It's a secret. You'll know when we get there." Willow glanced at him from the side. "I'm supposed to be treating you to dinner, but I feel like you've completely taken over." "Not at all," he teased. "You were the one who told me to pick the place. Don't worry, all you have to do today is enjoy yourself and pay the bill. I'll be careful not to bankrupt you." Willow smiled and shook her head, not continuing the banter. They drove in a comfortable silence. When they reached their destination, Maximilian got out of the car first, opened the passenger door for Willow, and then extended his hand to help her out. As Willow placed her hand in his, he gently took it and said, "Willow." Using his support, Willow stood up from her seat. They were standing extremely close, their hands still linked. Hearing him call her name, she couldn't help but look up. "Yes, what is it?" "Willow, would you be willing to make a bet with me?" It had been a long time since anyone had asked her to make a bet. When she was little, she used to bet with her 6th and 7th brothers all the time, though she always lost. As they grew up, her brothers got busy with work and no longer had the time or inclination to make bets with her. So, she hadn't heard those words in years. Hearing them again now, she felt a wave of nostalgia. She raised an eyebrow, a playful look in her eyes. "All right." A hint of surprise crossed Maximilian's face. "You agreed before I even said what the bet is." "I don't care what it is, I'll take the bet," Willow said nonchalantly. "So, what are we betting on?" Maximilian looked towards a large shopping complex in the distance. "Your brother told me you're amazing at karting. Coincidentally, I love it too, so let's have a race and see who wins. What do you say? Do you dare to bet with me?" Willow nodded, showing no fear. She had loved go-karting since she was a child and had raced against her 7 brothers countless times, always winning by a landslide. If Alistair hadn't entrusted her with the responsibility of Celestial Holdings, she might have even pursued professional racing abroad. But she had no idea there was such a large go-karting track here. Willow had never been to this place before. Seeing her curious expression, Maximilian explained, "This area was just recently developed. A friend of mine is the investor, which is how I know about it." Willow nodded in understanding. As they entered the karting area, she noticed that the vast track was completely empty. She was a bit surprised. Why is there no one here? It's still in its soft opening phase, not officially open yet, so there's no one around. Chapter 37. Just then, the owner, a tall and handsome man, walked out. He interrupted with a teasing tone. Hey, beautiful, don't listen to Maximilian's nonsense. We've been open for a while. This loaded bachelor just booked the entire place for tonight. Nice to meet you, I'm the owner here. Call me Bear. With that, Bear extended his right hand for a handshake. But before Willow could extend hers, Maximilian slapped his hand away. Maximilian stood in front of Willow. Bear, no one will think you're mute if you keep your mouth shut. Stop trying to get friendly and take us to get our racing suits. Bear looked at Maximilian, then peeked over his shoulder at Willow. Ooh, it's us, is it? Looks like I'm the third wheel here. My mistake. Maximilian slapped him on the back, signaling him to shut up. Willow felt her face grow warm. Bear led them to the changing rooms and handed Willow a new women's racing suit, pointing her towards the women's locker room. Willow said thanks and took the suit. The suit was the establishment's custom design. Willow could tell it wasn't a standard, off-the-shelf model. It had clearly been specially designed, with a much more flattering cut. She changed into the red and black jumpsuit. It was a bit loose around the waist, so she had to tighten the belt. The suit accentuated her figure perfectly, outlining her narrow waist and shapely hips. Willow fluffed her long, wavy hair, then picked up her helmet and phone and walked out. When she emerged, Maximilian was already changed and waiting for her. Seeing him in a blue and black jumpsuit, Willow's eyes lit up. Indeed, form-fitting suits like these truly showcased a person's excellent proportions. Bear had been standing next to Maximilian, showering him with compliments about how handsome he looked. When he saw Willow walk out, his jaw dropped. Oh my God, he exclaimed. That suit looks like it was tailor-made for you two, say no more. After you're done, I'm taking a picture of you both. I'm going to blow it up and hang it on my wall to show my customers just how good our suits look. Spoken like a true businessman, Maximilian said. If you hang a picture of me and Willow in your shop, won't business just explode? You should contact my assistant and discuss my endorsement fees. Maximilian, talking about money hurts our friendship, doesn't it? With our history, do we really need to discuss something as vulgar as money? Bear said, feigning shock. Maximilian nodded. Fine. Then why don't you start by paying back what you borrowed from me last time? At the mention of that, Bear quickly cut him off, pushing him toward the track. All right, Maximilian, stop wasting time and get to the race. Finish up so you can get dinner. Don't keep the beautiful lady waiting. Watching the bickering pair, Willow couldn't help but laugh. In the end, Bear herded them onto the track. After checking their carts, he stood at the starting line, holding a flag high. All right, on my signal when the starting gun fires, red and blue will start. 10 laps around the track. The one with the shortest time wins. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Chapter 38. With the sound of the starting gun, Willow and Maximilian shot off in their carts. From the start, Willow was slightly faster than Maximilian. With this initial advantage, she quickly took the inner lane, hugging it tightly as she sped forward, giving him no opportunity to overtake her. Maximilian, not to be outdone, stayed right behind her, just one cart length away. He looked at the driver's seat of the cart ahead, where her long hair flowed out from under her helmet, dancing in the wind. A smile touched his lips. At that moment, his mind was clear, filled with a single thought: gratitude. He was so incredibly grateful that the person by Willow's side was finally him. Maximilian had loved music since he was a child, and the great piano master, Madame Dubois, was his idol. When he was 15, Madame Dubois' concert tour came to the capital for the first time. As a devoted fan, Maximilian spent a fortune on a front-row center seat and went to the concert filled with excitement. It was that concert that changed the course of his life. A master was a master, and Madame Dubois' performance was utterly mesmerizing. But Maximilian found his attention completely captivated by another young girl on the stage. That girl was Madame Dubois' only and final protégée, the piano prodigy Bella. Bella looked even younger than him, yet she could perform a 4-hand duet with Madame Dubois without a hint of nervousness. Her skill level was undoubtedly on par with the master's, which was a terrifying thought. Because Bella was only 12 years old, her future was limitless. From that day on, Maximilian fell hopelessly in love with Bella's music. But despite her extraordinary talent, Bella seemed to have no desire for eternal fame in the world of piano. In the years that followed, she gave very few concerts. Over 10 years, she performed only a dozen or so times, sporadically. And for every single one of Bella's concerts, no matter where he was in the world, Maximilian would be there. It was no exaggeration to say that he had watched Bella grow up. Although she always wore a mask during her performances, it was easy to see that she possessed a beautiful face. Then, 3 years ago, Bella stopped performing altogether. Maximilian didn't know what had happened to her. He didn't know her personally, so he had no way of finding out. Once, when he was back in the country, he met Alistair Ainsworth for dinner. During their casual chat, Maximilian somehow brought up Bella. He said that listening to her play felt like a cleansing of the soul, but she hadn't performed in a long time, and he wondered if she was okay. Alistair was surprised, then said, "You really like her that much. To be honest with you, Bella is my sister Willow's stage name." Chapter 39, Learning the Truth, Maximilian was both shocked and overjoyed. He wanted to ask Alistair to introduce him to Willow. But Alistair hesitated, sighed, and then told him the whole story. How Willow had hidden her identity to become an assistant for Ethan Hawthorne. No matter how her brothers tried to persuade her, she had been insistent. So, they had no choice but to let her go. That was why she hadn't performed as Bella that year. Hearing the reason, Maximilian fell silent, a sour feeling churning in his stomach. If only he had realized sooner that Bella was so close, perhaps the one by Willow's side wouldn't have been Ethan Hawthorne. Maximilian suddenly remembered seeing the name Ethan Hawthorne somewhere before. After having his assistant check his emails, he found that Ethan's Hawthorne group had recently sent him an invitation. Thinking about what Alistair had said about Willow being his personal assistant, Maximilian decided to attend the banquet on a whim, hoping to see her. That was why he had lowered his status to attend a party hosted by the Hawthorne group, because he wanted to see Willow. Fortunately, he did see her that day. Without her mask, she was just as beautiful, just as captivating. His heart pounded for her. While Maximilian was no saint, he understood the principle of not coveting what belonged to another. So, after that one meeting, he buried his feelings deep in his heart, flew back abroad that very night, and didn't return for 3 years. An ocean apart, he could control himself. But if they were in the same country, he knew he wouldn't be able to resist finding any excuse to see her. The moment Willow left Ethan and returned to the Ainsworth family, Maximilian got the news. He immediately moved his entire base of operations back to the capital. Knowing she liked pink, he scoured the world for pink diamonds, just to give her the perfect birthday gift. Later, he heard that Willow was struggling with finding partners for Celestial Holdings. He guessed that the 4 companies he knew were her top choices. And as it happened, the current CEOs of those 4 companies were all close friends of his. So, Maximilian stepped in and secured the partnership for Celestial Holdings on her behalf, then used the welcome home dinner as a pretense to hand the deal over to her. In truth, Maximilian knew that even without his help, Willow would have handled everything perfectly. But he just wanted to do something for her. And Willow knew nothing of these long-held plans. Chapter 40, both Maximilian and Willow were pushing their carts to the limit. The race was halfway through, and Willow had maintained her lead. But Maximilian's cart was frequently showing signs of wanting to overtake, only to be expertly blocked by Willow each time. It seemed this stalemate would last until the end of the race. But with only half a lap remaining, Maximilian seized an opportunity while shifting gears, overtook her from the outside lane, and crossed the finish line just seconds before she did. In the end, Maximilian won. The immense inertia of the carts forced them to do another slow lap. When they got out, Maximilian had a slight smile on his face. "Willow, you're incredible, but I still won by a hair." Normally, in a race like this, he would have let her win. But he desperately wanted a promise from her, so he had no choice but to beat her. He had to admit, though, Willow was truly amazing. If he hadn't been a former F1 driver, he probably wouldn't have been able to win. Bear, expecting Willow to be at least a little upset, rushed over to smooth things over. "My God, you two, that was spectacular. That was a professional-level race." I was on the edge of my seat watching. To his surprise, Willow's expression was completely composed, as if she didn't mind at all. "I did my best. You're just the better driver." I actually knew you were a former F1 driver, but I still wanted to try. Maximilian was surprised by her frankness and grace, but then he smiled. That was the woman he admired. For someone without professional training, your skills are top-notch. If you were to race against other professional drivers now, you wouldn't necessarily lose. Willow took off her helmet and huffed playfully. That sounds like a compliment for me, but it's really just a compliment for yourself, isn't it? Maximilian was speechless. Beside him, Bear burst out laughing. As Willow headed to the lounge, Bear draped an arm over Maximilian's shoulders and whispered, "Maximilian, you've got it good, my friend. This girl is amazing. Her personality and looks are top tier. You think you can actually win her over?" Maximilian took off his helmet and tossed it at Bear. "Say something encouraging for once." After much pleading from Bear, Maximilian and Willow finally agreed to let him take a few photos. As expected of a flawless-looking couple, they looked stunning even from Bear's terrible camera angles. At one point, Willow couldn't take it anymore and started directing him. "Crouch down to shoot. Stand further back. Tilt the camera a bit. Yes, just like that." Before they left, Bear had Maximilian create a group chat so he could send them the edited photos later. By the time they left the karting center, the sky had turned completely dark. Stars were a rare sight in the capital's night sky, but tonight they could even see the North Star. Willow fiddled with the chain of her small purse and turned to look at Maximilian. "So, you won. What do you want me to do?" Maximilian looked as if he hadn't expected her to remember the bet. It took him a moment to reply. "I haven't thought of anything yet, so can you owe me one wish?" Chapter 40, Willow's eyes widened in surprise. "How could you not have thought of anything? I thought you made this bet because you were sure you would win." Maximilian shook his head. "Not at all. If my opponent were anyone else, I'd be certain of my victory, but my opponent was you. I couldn't be sure I would win. Because when I'm facing you, I always find myself losing ground." Willow cleared her throat, feeling a little flustered. It was a normal sentence, but coming from Maximilian's mouth, it sounded a bit like a line from a love story. She was probably overthinking it. "All right then, I'll owe you one wish. Come find me to cash it in when you've thought of something." After such an intense race, Willow was feeling hungry. She rubbed her stomach and asked, "Maximilian, I'm hungry. Is the place you mentioned for dinner far from here?" Maximilian chuckled. "Not far, it's nearby. It's probably the best Korean restaurant in the capital." Hearing that he was taking her for Korean food, Willow's eyes lit up. She grabbed his sleeve and asked, "Really? You're taking me for Korean food?" Not even all 7 of her brothers knew about her love for Korean food, yet Maximilian knew. Was it a coincidence or intentional? At that moment, Willow didn't have the mind to figure it out. She gripped his arm and urged, "Take me there quickly, I'm starving." Maximilian felt his arm stiffen slightly where she held it, but then he relaxed, enjoying it. He bent his arm, making it easier for her to link hers with his. "Let's go, little glutton." As they pushed open the restaurant's wooden door, a small bell on the handle chimed crisply. Stepping inside, Willow let out a soft wow. The place was surprisingly crowded. Maximilian led her to a table he had reserved in advance and handed her the menu. Willow didn't stand on ceremony. After quickly ordering, she urged the waiter to bring the food out soon. There was nothing more blissful than having a steaming hot pot in the cool autumn air. To make things even better, Maximilian was grilling meat for her at the side. Willow thought that in her entire life, this was the first time a man outside her family had taken such meticulous care of her. There had been others, of course, but the men who pursued her were always overly eager, which made her uncomfortable. Maximilian, however, gave her a different, comfortable feeling. They both enjoyed the meal immensely, though in the end, it was Maximilian who paid the bill. Willow feigned anger, saying that it was her treat, so why did he pay? Maximilian quickly apologized, saying it was a habit. But when she tried to give him the money, he refused, saying she could just treat him next time. And so, back and forth, Willow and Maximilian ended up sharing many meals together. That night, after parting ways with Maximilian, Willow returned to the Ainsworth home humming a little tune, only to be caught red-handed by Alistair, who had been waiting for her. Startled by his silent presence, she clutched her chest. "Eldest brother, what are you doing standing here? You didn't make a sound, you scared me." Alistair retorted, "I wasn't silent. Someone has been grinning like an idiot since she walked in the door. I said something, but you didn't even hear me, and now you're blaming me for being quiet. Willow huffed and tried to walk towards her room, but Alistair blocked her path. Willow, you seem to be in a very good mood lately. You've been coming home late and you're always glowing. What's going on? Are you in a relationship? Willow's face turned beet red. Eldest brother, what are you talking about? I'm not, she said, flustered. Not in a relationship? Then you've been out with that Maximilian kid, haven't you? Come on, be honest. What are your feelings for him? Chapter 42, at the mention of Maximilian, Willow became a bit bashful. It was undeniable that he was a wonderful man. The time she had spent with him these past days had made her happy, and she always found herself looking forward to their next meeting. But to have Alistair pointed out so directly still made her feel embarrassed. Oh, eldest brother, why are you asking me this? I know what I'm doing with my own life. It was true, Willow liked Maximilian. But they had spent so much time together, and he hadn't seemed to want to take things to the next level. She was afraid she had misread the situation. After the emotional trauma she had experienced with Ethan, she had become much more timid when it came to love. Seeing her reaction, Alistair understood what she was thinking. Willow, you like him, don't you? Willow nodded, letting out a very soft mhm. A smile spread across Alistair's face. Then let me tell you, he has liked you for many years. He fell for you back when you were still Bella. Alistair told her everything about Maximilian's past, and only then did Willow learn that he had been in love with her for so long, even before she knew he existed. Tears welled up in her eyes. She took out her phone and dialed Maximilian's number. Maximilian, I want to see you. Right now, is that okay? Okay, open the door, I'm right outside your house. Hearing his words, Willow was stunned for a moment, but then she realized. After dropping her off, Maximilian had been waiting outside her house the whole time. So, Alistair stopping her here tonight, asking about her feelings, that was Maximilian's idea, wasn't it? Willow ran towards Maximilian, who was standing outside the main gate. Without a word, she threw herself into his arms and burst into tears. Maximilian didn't ask anything. He just gently stroked her back, waiting for her to compose herself. Willow finally stopped crying, her voice thick with emotion. Maximilian, are you an idiot? Why didn't you tell me you've liked me for so many years? Maximilian cupped her face, his thumbs gently wiping away her tears. Willow, he said softly, the day we met again, I told you I was a very timid person. I've been in love with someone for many years, but I didn't have the courage to tell her because I didn't know if she liked me back. Before Willow could speak, he continued, but now I want to gather my courage and tell you. I like you. I've liked you for many years, and I will continue to like you for many years to come. Willow, you promised me once that you owed me a wish. Can I cash it in now? I want you to be my girlfriend. I will do everything in my power to love you and protect you. Will you? The tears Willow had just held back began to fall again. She threw herself back into his arms. Maximilian, you really are a fool. Haven't you figured it out yet? I fell for you a long time ago. Maximilian held her tightly, as if he were embracing a priceless treasure. He kissed the top of her head and murmured, Willow, I will love you for a lifetime. Willow's muffled voice came from his chest. It's a promise. A lifetime, not a single day less.